Hello, everybody. It's Monday night. Holy shit. And we're doing a stream. Seems like I've been doing this a couple times here this month, but hope everybody's doing all right. I had a busy weekend this weekend, doing a little traveling, taking in a few different things. It was a weekend of loud noises for me, pretty much. Um, so yeah, I'm a little. My ears are ringing just a little, but it was a lot of fun, and I needed a little getaway like that. It was pretty fun. But hope everybody's doing well out there. Just going on tonight. Wanted to hop on here and I don't know, talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. I got the just got the brand new Bruiser 4K in from over in the UK from Indicator. And it's Indicator and some other fucking company I can't remember. Um, what is it? I want to give them their proper due. Powerhouse Films. I know it was something weird like that. But yeah, I wanted to come on here, kind of show that off a little bit. I haven't watched the actual movie yet. There's a reason for that, which I'll discuss at a later date. But I haven't watched the actual transfer yet. I can't really speak on how that looks, but I have looked. I have opened it because I got it probably last Wednesday, I think, in the mail, and I was kind of holding off on opening it. I was like, hey, I can do it on the channel, but it's just like at this point, it's like there's so many other channels out there where you can just sit and watch people fucking open things. It's like who gives a shit. So I've already opened it and looked at it. I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna look at it. But I'm gonna show you what's inside. I'm gonna show you what all came with it. And we'll discuss the special features a little bit too, because I did take in a few of those last night. There's some good and bad. Some pretty interesting comments from Jason Fleming, the star of Bruiser. Um, and we'll see how many people just completely jump ship tonight and they're just like, holy shit, this motherfucker's talking about Bruiser. I'm out. I'm watching Monday Night Raw or something like that. But I don't give a fuck. I have a lot of respect for, not to put it crudely, but I have a lot of respect for Bruiser as a movie. I'm a fan of it. I like it a lot. I think the biggest issue that people have with it is that a lot of people just haven't seen it, or if they have seen it, they saw it once when it first came out, and of course, it was the first movie from George. I mean, if you were, I mean, I guess most people that watch this channel are my age and above, but any younger viewers out there who may have, not been around when Bruiser first came out, they probably maybe saw it one time. They had the old DVD because that's all we have had here in the states since it came out in like the early 2000s. So the younger crowds probably popped it in, watched it once. They're like, this is George. This is not Romero, and it is what it is. And then they just move on to think about it. They're just like, oh yeah, that movie's not bad. But I think with this, for the people that got this 4K, and I do have on very, very good authority that there will be a US 4K release as well. And we'll talk about whether or not maybe you should seek the UK version, this one out, or just wait until the US one comes out, because I do have some thoughts on that. Um, but pretty much, I feel like it's going to. I think people are going to kind of rediscover it. I've always said that. I feel like Bruiser's a movie that people need to rediscover and watch again with fresh eyes, and a fresh perspective, and kind of keep in mind, especially big time Romero fans like we all are. Um, Keep an open mind about where George was at in his career, what he had just gone through for the previous 6-7 years in the '90s, and just kind of watch it again with those eyes and kind of think about where his career would go, where it had been. Um, I just think it's a really interesting movie. I compare it a lot to, it was kind of George's third, kind of the third phase of Romero's career, kind of is when Bruiser started after the development hell that he was in the '90s. To come back with an independent horror film all his own and just do it the old-fashioned way, do it. Unfortunately, he ended up, that was kind of the first movie. I mean, it was the first movie he made in Canada, so it was the first movie away from Pittsburgh, really, that George had ever been. I mean, other than Florida and a couple other places for Day of the Dead, but centrally filmed in the Pittsburgh area. Um, so yeah, I just think it's going to be. I think it's an interesting. I'm curious to see when people finally do watch it again with fresh eyes and kind of give it another shot, especially with a 4K transfer. and all the goodies that'll come, I'm sure, with the US version, along with the one that the UK just put out. So I don't know. I'm interested in talking about it. Like I said, there is something else in the pipeline, hopefully coming soon. But I just wanted to kind of show it off a little bit here and discuss it just a little, just a little. Um, so I'll go ahead and check the comments. What's going on, everybody? Robert Harvitz the second. Hey, good everyone. Good to be here tonight. Good to have you, sir. Love this artist. Yeah, that's Coulter Wall. For anybody interested, Coulter Wall. I knew Coulter Wall way back in the day before anybody really knew who he was. He was playing at the Spillway in Bowling Green, and now he's a world renowned country artist or whatever. But yeah, I didn't know him too well, but he was good friends with his manager at the I don't know. I'm just going off on a random tangent about fucking Coulter Wall here, but I guess this is what to expect when you put this shit on your channel. People bring it up, but what the hell? His manager, his original manager, was a girl by the name of Mary, and she dated my friend John for many years until he passed away, and then she kind of discovered Coulter Wall and kind of guided his career. So anyway, that's above the point. But yeah, Coulter Wall's pretty awesome, Robert. It's a long way around to get to what the fuck I was talking about. Synth, what's up, man? Hey, more Romero fun. I hope it's fun. We're talking about Bruiser, so like I said, I don't know how much fun people are having tonight, but we'll see. We'll see. Titanic discussions. What's up, man? Good to see you in here. We've got to get to the cellar. Well, I think we discussed, I think me and Synth kind of came to the conclusion that maybe the attic would have been the best place. But at the same time, I mean, we think that now with the remake, and that's kind of where Harry goes. But was there an attic in the original farmhouse in the original Night of the Living Dead? I don't recall if they really ever discussed that, or so there may not have been a fucking attic. I don't know. I'm sure there was like a crawl space or something. I don't know, but yeah, anyway, good to see you, man. 1911 guitar dude, Brad, what's up, man? Nice intro song. Okay, we got some fans of Coulter Wall. Country, a little changing it up a little bit this week with a little bit of cowboy country. Sir William, what's up, man? Hello to my ghoulish friends. What's up, buddy? Hope you are doing well. Let's see, we got Synth saying hey to Mr. Fell. Sorry, John, what's up, man? Good to see you in here again. Probably freaking up a little bit. Apologies. My Bruiser 4K is in shipment. Looking forward to its arrival. Yeah, I think I got it. Like I said, I got it last week, but I've heard quite a few people say that that ordered it. They haven't received it yet, or if it's still on the way. Did you order directly from the website, or did you go through a third party like Diabolic or Orbit or something like that? I don't even know if they had. I think Diabolic did, but I think that's probably why there's a hold up. But hopefully, it won't be too much longer, man. Yeah, talk about the extras on the Bruiser disc if you get a chance to check it. Yeah, I did. Well, I some of them. I haven't looked at them all. I watched the interview with Jason Fleming, which was like 11 minutes. I watched I listened to. We'll get to that. Listened to the Romero interview. It's like a 44-minute interview from 2014 or something like that. And then the extra with the Newman, whatever the fuck his name was, goofy looking dude. But I've always liked him, though. I always anything that he has to say about horror and shit like that. I mean, he's very highbrow and hoity-toity about horror, but it is what it is. It was interesting. Since just did some more Dawn audio dialogue isolations extractions, you may want to make a soundboard with some of them for these live streams. I've thought about it. I would like to do more of that. Use a little more sound effects and shit like that. Just for the hell of it. Just to see what I could do with it. I think the attic scene in 1990 came from Return of the Living Dead. Yeah, that's true. Return of the Living Dead did do it first. Robert says this conversation has inspired me. I literally just ordered Bruiser on DVD from Amazon. Awesome. Well, yeah, the DVD is from like 2000, so it doesn't look the greatest. There is a commentary track on it with George and Peter Grunwald. It's pretty interesting to listen to. But yeah, like I said, I do think that there's pretty sure it's going to be a 4K. If there's a 4K transfer for this, I'm thinking there's going to be a 4K release here in the US here soon. And I'm curious to see what this one looks like, because like I said, I have this one from, what the fuck was this? France. This is the one I got in few months back. Blu-ray. It looks great. There's not much in terms of like extras on this thing. It's pretty much pretty standard, but it looks good. So I'm curious to see how much better it can look in 4K. Because I was pretty, pretty happy with this. This is a Studio Canal, I think. Let me put this out. But anyway, just throw that over there for now. See, Brett says I had ordered my Bruiser 4K copy from Diabolic. Okay, yeah, because I know a guy that also is still waiting on his that ordered from Diabolic, so that's probably what's going on with it. Um, but yeah, good to see everybody in here tonight. Like I said, it's Monday night. Didn't do anything on the weekend. Like I said, it was kind of a busy weekend. Like I said, a weekend of loud noises. Ended up going over to Louisville, Louisville, depending on where you are from. So people in Kentucky, they're always like it's Louisville, Louisville. It's a bull. It's you got to make that noise when you say it. I've always said Louisville. I don't know why, and I'm from Kentucky. But I'm pretty much the only person that I know that actually says Louisville, and people give me shit about it. But made a stop over in Louisville on Saturday. I wanted to check out some different yeah, physical media stores, whatever the hell you want to call them, collectible stores that were in Louisville. And I don't live that far from Louisville, um, but I just don't make it up there too often. So I wanted to stop, check these places out, see if they had anything cool. I did pick up a few Blu-rays here we can talk about. There's a place on Bardstown Road. I kept the receipt just so I wouldn't fucking forget. Bardstown Road in Louisville, Kentucky. BME Exchange, Books and Music Exchange. Really cool store. The guy checking me out. We were talking about John Carpenter quite a bit while he was checking out. And he said he knew a guy that said that John Carpenter babysat for him when he was a kid or something like that. It's like, okay, I mean it's possible. I mean he's from Bowling Green. Bowling Green's not that far from Louisville, but really cool place. Some really awesome selections. I don't know. Do you guys, for any physical media collectors out there, I don't know what the fuck I do most of the time, buying a lot of this shit, but to have, uh, uh, are you particular about for you? Um, I don't know, I think I'm fucking up here already. You probably hear children downstairs too, but it's early, so the kids are still awake. The women and children are still awake, so we'll see if there's any screaming or fighting going on downstairs. I'm trying to wait to see if my internet connection is going to work out here, but I think we're okay. Anyway, yeah, stopped at this place, Books and Music Exchange down on Bardstown Road in Louisville. Picked up a few copies we can talk about here for anybody that's seen them. I figured this would be fun to do. It's just an opportunity to talk about other things. But the first thing I picked up, the Blu-ray, I did not have. Yeah, there's a dog barking in the background. I'm about to yell. Hang on. Let me mute. Well, we got screaming. It's a fucking zoo here, folks. Anyway, so I wanted to pick this up. It's The Omega Man with Charlton Heston. Did not have this on Blu-ray, and I was just talking about this movie not too long ago. I've always been a big fan of the Omega Man. Of course, it's based off of the Richard Matheson novel I Am Legend, which is where George drew inspiration for Night of the Living Dead. So there's a lot of it's very much like Last Man on Earth with Vincent Price, or the movie I Am Legend, I guess, with Will Smith. But I've always liked this one for some. Charlton Heston, for one, is a bad motherfucker. You gotta love Charlton Heston. But there's just something about the vibe to it. It's 70s. I think this came out in 71. So yeah, early 70s. Am I fucking done here? What is this? Am I back on? I don't know what the fuck's going on here. God damn. Sorry, guys. We'll figure this out one day. Anyway, Yo Mega Man, Charlton Heston, big fan of that one. I might lose it tonight. Tonight might be the night. God damn it. So a couple John Carpenter. Speaking of John Carpenter, is what kind of sparked the conversation. I did not have The Fog on Blu-ray. This is the Scream Factory version of The Fog. Didn't have The Fog on Blu-ray, so wanted to pick this up. I'm a fan of The Fog. I wouldn't say it's one of my absolute favorite Carpenter movies. I mean, it's up there. It's in the top half of his. I mean, I got a real piece of shit here in a minute to talk about, but I like it. I like the vibe. It has a very good atmosphere to it. Um, there's a lot I really like about The Fog. I do think it does feel at times to me like a big build up to nothing. Like I feel like the ending, the climax, the build to where it goes, kinda is a letdown. It kinda just builds and builds and builds, and then just kind of flatlines in the last 15, 20 minutes. Just my opinion. But overall, I mean, you gotta, and of course, it's Carpenter that I don't have, so I had to get it. And then another John Carpenter movie that I didn't have that I didn't have to get, but it's a movie I honestly have never seen all the way through. Um, it just didn't grab me the first time that I watched it. It didn't feel like a Carpenter movie at all. Um, but of course, had to get it. I didn't have it. It's John Carpenter. It's The Ward. It's The Ward with who's all in this fucking thing? Amber Turd, Mammy Gummer. Who the fuck is Mammy Gummer? That sounds like one of the Wild and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia. This is Mamie Gummer, Danielle Panabaker, and Jared Harris. So star-studded fucking cast here. But yeah, I mean it's technically John Carpenter, I guess. So I had to get. I'll give it another watch. I'll give it another shot. Um, Maybe I can get all the way through it. One that I couldn't get through the other night. Maybe I'll have to go back another time and try again. But and I have this issue with some Cronenberg movies in general, but his newest film, Crimes of the Future, I got through like 25, 30 minutes of it, and I was just like, I'm out. Like I don't know. This is not grabbing me whatsoever. I mean, it was weird. I mean, there's some interesting shit in it. Viggo Mortensen's always good, but yeah, I couldn't get through that one. That's kind of the same story with this one, The Ward. And I've generally liked most of the newer Cronenberg stuff. I mean, it's different. I know it's speaking of Carpenter, but Carpenter has that quote where he's talking about David Cronenberg. He's like, "Oh yeah, David used to make really good movies back in the day, but now he's an artist." And that's kind of how that's kind of how it is with Cronenberg. But Cronenberg's always kind of been a weird artist. But his newer stuff is a little heavier in that vein, I guess. But yeah, The Ward, John Carpenter. Any of you guys have seen it? What do you think? Um, Maybe somebody out there likes it. I've never heard anything hardly good about it from anybody. Um, and this is one I've never seen before, but I've been dying to see it for quite some time, and I've always flirted back and forth because I think Kino just put out a 4K of this, and I've came this close to just picking up that 4K, but I usually don't like to spend big money on like 4Ks and shit like that unless it's a movie that I love, like Bruiser or something. But found the Blu-ray, finally getting to watch it. It's, of course, Brian De Palma's 1980 film, Dress to Kill. This one's got Michael Caine in it, and from what I hear, it's pretty. I feel like a fucking blue tuber now. I got this movie, never seen it, but it's got a pretty cover, and from what I hear, it's pretty good. That's there's a lot of fucking YouTube channels that are basically that these days. I'm trying not to be that, but I'm being honest. I've never seen this movie. I've wanted to see this movie, so now I get the chance to finally fucking see this movie. Um, it sounds like something right up my alley. So very, very excited to finally watch that. It's also got Angie Dickinson and Nancy Allen in it too. Yeah, pretty excited to finally watch that. And this is one. This is a kind of a hard to find Blu-ray. It's kind of rare. It's probably out of print. It's pretty pricey, but I'm a huge fan of this movie. I'm a huge fan of the original. The original is one of my all-time favorite horror movies ever. And so, of course, when I hear that, I'm like, oh shit, they're remaking one of my all-time favorite horror movies ever. This is not going to go well. But this one is actually one of the rare occasions where the remake, I wouldn't say is as good as the original. Maybe in ways, I don't know. It depends on your taste, what you like. Like, it's subjective. Um, but I think it carried over the spirit of the original in a lot of ways. It kind of added some different ideas to it in the way that it was presented. Um, and I just really really like it. The score is fantastic. That's of course the Maniac remake with Elijah Wood. And I know a lot of people are like, "Oh, Elijah Wood, that fucking Maniac remake with Elijah Wood." Like Elijah Wood is no Joe Spinell. And that's kind of the point. Like I think that's what kind of works about it is that you see Joe Spinell walking the streets of New York, you think like, yeah, that motherfucker might be scalping prostitutes and nailing their scalps up on the wall. Um, you see Elijah Wood walking through New York, you're thinking, hey, there's a strapping young lad. I'm sure he's got, I'm popular with the ladies and all this shit. But so I think it works in that aspect where it is easier for somebody like that to kind of corner you into a situation. Um, but yeah, I've always been a big fan of this from the first time I saw it, and so I was pretty stoked to find the Blu-ray, but I only had it on DVD. I'm curious to see what the Blu-ray looks like. That's one I'm gonna have to rewatch again here shortly because it's one I haven't seen in quite a while. But I watched it quite a few times when it first came out, and I was a big fan of Maniac. And then of course the big one. This is the creme de la creme of the hall here. Urban Cowboy. That's right. John Travolta, Urban Cowboy, Deborah Winger. Uh, God, who else is there? What's that one dude's name? Scott Glenn. I love Scott. Scott Glenn's great in everything he does. I don't give a fuck. Fuck y'all. I'm a huge Urban Cowboy fan. I know it's like, oh, it was just kind of like this country version of Saturday Night Fever or whatever, but I prefer Urban Cowboy to Saturday Night Fever. I guess that's probably because I grew up in Kentucky and I grew up around fucking rednecks and shit like that. But the one big thing I always talk about in terms of like my opinions on movies and shit, and it was a recent example of that that me and I think Stuntman Mark on the Dead Pit channel and I were having a disagreement about. Um, where when you see somebody putting on a fake Southern accent, it's distracting to me and it takes me out of the movie. And just like I can't take this shit seriously. Um, but Urban Cowboy to me feels like they shot with real people and real locations and all. I mean, and it's one of the best fucking love stories ever made about two white trash people in a fucking trailer fighting and screaming at each other and then coming together in the end, you know. So I love Urban Cowboy. I don't know, maybe it's because I grew up with him. My mom was a huge John Travolta fan growing up, so we grew up with Grease and Urban Cowboy and all that shit. Um, but again, the soundtrack on Urban Cowboy is one of the best soundtracks ever, especially for country music from that period, you know. Um, so anyway, y'all can give me shit if you want. Fuck y'all. I like Urban Cowboy. All right, let's catch up on some of these. Okay, yeah, see, Will, Louisville, yeah, I gotcha. I hear that a lot. Um, since I bought the old Bruiser DVD, since I couldn't rent it anywhere for my first viewing, I have a rip of the German Blu-ray, not 4K, that I should rewatch. Yeah, the German Blu-ray has been out for quite a while. It's out of print now. I never was able to get a hold of it, but I hear it's not the greatest quality. Um, like I said, just hold out. I mean, the DVD's fine to watch it back again. Um, just, but I think it's one of those movies that it's really well shot. The locations are really fun locations to look at. I don't know. I think it's just I think a 4K transfer is really going to do this movie good. Doesn't Louisville have the world's largest baseball bat on display? I don't know. I've never seen that. I wouldn't be surprised. Man, that's all Louisville's known for. I remember when I met John Russo in 2008, and I told him, he was like, "Oh, where are you from?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm from Kentucky, Western Kentucky, like down Hopkinsville, about an hour north of Nashville." And all he knew about Kentucky was, Louisville Sluggers. Huh? I'm like, "Yeah, baseball bats, I guess." So I guess that's our big thing is baseball bats and meth. So wouldn't be surprised. You have web hogs stealing your bandwidth. Yeah, I don't know what the fuck happened there. Hopefully, I don't know. I'm trying to find some solution to this issue, but I think just streaming up here because I'm up on the second floor of the house and our signal's just ass. Um, yeah, Omega Man Classic Heston film. Yeah, big old chunk there. Omega Man's one of my favorites as well, says Nathan. What's up, Nathan? Good to see you in here again. Yeah, I mean, Omega Man, it's definitely a fun movie. And I remember talking about this when when I was talking about the visit to the archive and reading the original treatment of Dawn of the Dead from like the early 70s, I really feel like George had probably just seen the Omega Man before he wrote that because it felt, just by reading it, it felt a lot like the Omega Man, as opposed to what we ended up getting. Um, that's pretty interesting. Since I saw the Fog first run in theater, good stuff. Um, Will says all the roads mentioned are actual Bowling Green roads. That's right. A lot of Bowling Green references in Carpenter's films in general. I don't know about the Ward or any of that, but back in the day, when he was making good shit. Since saying this one Carpenter you haven't seen, yeah, like I said, I've watched some of it. I couldn't get all the way through it, but what the hell? Oh, that's interesting. Bonnie Bell Bailey, what's up? Good to see you again, Mamie. Is it Mamie or Mammy? Marmy? Is that what the hell is it? Mamie? It looks like Mamie. Mammy? Mammy Gummer. Anyway, is Meryl Streep's daughter. I did not know that. That's interesting. Nepotism on display there. I don't know. I don't know if she can act or not. I don't remember her being in this movie or what she plays, but we'll see. That's cool. I didn't know that. Didn't know he remade Crimes of the Future. One of his first films was called that in black and white. I don't know if it's the remake of it. He just reused the title. Because I mean, it is a badass title. Like if you were to sit me down and say like think of the best like horror movie titles or any title you can like Crimes of the Future. That sounds interesting. That sounds intriguing. Like what will crimes in the future be? You know, uh, you know, saying bad language, or like, it's like that episode of fucking what is it? Black Mirror. That episode of Black Mirror when they all get the social credit scores, and which is a possible future for us. The social credit scores, and at the end they lock you up in jail if you cuss too much or people don't like you enough, and your score goes all the way down. Anyway, what the hell? Robert says The Ward is the last John Carpenter movie he directed. I enjoyed it. Yeah, he also did some like TV series here recently too, and he's doing. I don't know if that was it, but there also talks to him like directing something over the computer, like over Skype or something from his. I don't fucking know. Like, just the dude has no. To me, John Carpenter, I don't feel has any interest in making movies anymore, or gives a shit about movies in general anymore. Like, you may see something he likes. And of course, he'll put over the new Halloween movies because they paid him to do so. I mean, they're paying him, and they're using his music and shit like that. So he's gonna put that over. Do I really think that those are movies that he would go out of his way to see or give a shit about? No. Carpenter's interested in two things right now, and that's weed, video games, and maybe the occasional convention where he can go and shit on people for a while. But I love John Carpenter, but he's a cranky little bastard. Let me tell you. Derek, what's up, man? Subjective Perspective Collective in the house. What's happening? I'd say stick with Crimes of the Future. It gets better as the film goes on. Okay. I mean, yeah, like I said, I'll have to give it another shot because I do love. And like I said, this is something normal with Cronenberg for me. Like a lot of Cronenberg movies are like that for me. Like it takes me a couple of times watching it before I get it. Like my favorite Cronenberg movie is Videodrome. And the first couple of times I saw Videodrome, I was like, I don't know what the fuck just happened here, but it's cool. So I'm going to keep giving it a shot. And it's kind of the same feeling I had with Crimes of the Future. Like watching it, I was like, it's cool, but I don't know what the fuck is going on here or, what any of this is. So it's one of those things I got to just keep going, give it a few more shots. Like I said, I bought it on Blu-ray, so I'm sure there'll come a period at some point where I'm like, I got to give it another shot. The Ward is shit stank. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much what I hear. Dressed to Kill is amazing. Yeah, I've heard nothing but good things. But Tarantino did a podcast with Eli Roth that I listened to months ago. They were talking about like American giallos, and Dressed to Kill was one that they talked about. They also talked about Alice, Sweet Alice, Happy Birthday, and fuck, what is that movie called? It's got Tommy Lee Jones in it. I think it was written by John Carpenter actually, from the 70s. I can't think of the title off the top of my head, but yeah, there you go. Dressed to Kill, an American giallo. I'm excited. I love giallo, so I've always been interested in the concept of an American giallo as well. I don't know because I that's kind of one of the biggest disappointments about Maxine that I had is that watching it, it got to the point where I was kind of like, oh shit, they're gonna go fucking full on American Giallo here on us, like they're bringing, but no, that they didn't go there at all. Um, okay, Dirk says better than Blowout. I like Blowout. I didn't love Blowout, um, but I do like it a lot. Like, there's a lot to like about Blowout. Since says yeah, Blowout was weak. God damn. Antonionis. I'm gonna fucking mispronounce that. Blow up was much better. Yeah, there's blowout, blow up, blow job, whatever. Those do get me mixed up. When I see blow up and blow out, I'm like, oh, oh, oh. Maniac remake ain't bad, Dirk. Okay, that you have that's an opinion that I respect. Maniac Remake was okay. Suspense would be better without the original in existence. I mean, yeah, of course. I mean, that's pretty much anything that's remade. I mean, but I'm trying not to compare the two. But what I like in a remake is when it kind of carries the essence of the original into it. Like it's a big reason I'm not the biggest Dawn remake fan. Not to go on this tangent again, but I don't feel like that carried quite the same essence of the original. Whereas the Maniac, the score sounds a lot like an '80s slasher score. Like it's very electronic, simplistic. The first person camera thing, I wasn't a huge fan of the first time I saw it, but the more I watched it, like it's easy to get used to it. It's an interesting take because in the original Maniac, not to compare the two, but in the original Maniac, we are forced, like the main character to us, our protagonist, quote unquote. I wouldn't call him a protagonist, anti-hero, I guess, maybe. I don't know. What would you categorize Joe Spinell's character, Frank Zito, in the original Maniac? What would you categorize that? Is he, because I mean, he's really the only character that we follow throughout the entire film from beginning to end, and we kind of learn to somewhat sympathize with because we can see his fucked up background with it. Like, we're forced to see through his eyes. We're forced to follow him into this story. And so in the remake, they just did it literally. So Sean likes Maniac remake. Okay. Uh, Dirk says still haven't seen Blow Up from '69, right? No, I don't think so. I do know it. I do know of it, but I haven't. Yeah, I haven't seen Blow Up. Elijah Wood and Sin City. Sin City's a movie that I loved first time I saw it, and just haven't seen it. I think I saw it that one time. Really liked it, and just never had the urge to go back and rewatch it. I don't know why. Um, Sid says you need to get the Saturday Night Fever sequel called Staying Alive, directed by Stallone. No, I'm good on that. Never seen it. I don't think I have any interest in seeing it either. I forgot the year. Dirk says probably a pain in the arse, but maybe run an Ethernet cable. Fucked up thing about this, I'm using a MacBook. There is no port for Ethernet. There's no Ethernet port on this thing. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm going to figure something else out, though. I've thought of that. Trust me, I've thought of every possible thing that I can think of. I'm just like, I don't know what else to do. Probably have to drop a few bucks or something and fix it that way. Mamie. All right, I love that. Mamie. Thanks, Bonnie. So Mamie Gummer still sounds like a family, a member of the Wild and Wonderful Whites of West Virginia. Or Demolition Man, swearing talent. Yeah, that's. I love Demolition Man. Actually, I'm a big Demolition Man fan. It's just a fun action movie from the '90s, and it's inventive in a lot of the shit that goes on in it, like just like the swearing tally or whatever. You've been fined five. Video game driving as a kid, loved it even then, but I'm weird. Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's my favorite Cronenberg movie now. But like the first time I saw it, it was like, yeah, this is awesome. Like this is some really cool shit, but I have no idea what's going on here or what the point of this is. Then you watch it a few more times, you're like, okay, I pick it up. Dirk says Carpenter smoking the weed, eating Funyuns, playing Call of Duty, and I recently heard he's directing from home as well. Yeah, yeah, same shit I've heard. Since Spinell is a sympathetic monster but borders on pathetic. Yeah, I mean, sympathetic monster. That's a good way to put it. But yeah, I mean, not somebody you like. Not somebody that you're cheering for in the end. You're not like, oh, get away when he gets his comeuppance. You're kind of all in for it. So, but still, it's the one and character where it's kind of like Alex DeLarge and Clockwork Orange, except he was a little more charismatic, and you kind of liked him more just because I don't know why. Maybe that's just me. Uh, get a Thunderbolt to Ethernet dongle. Not too expensive. Okay, I'll write that down actually. So I should have been hitting you up to begin with, since I actually went back and fixed the audio from our stream from a few weeks ago. I'm planning on putting it up on the channel here soon, so you guys can actually hear what the fuck I'm talking about. Okay, Thunderbolt to Ethernet. Bolt to. I'm just gonna hire you to be my personal IT guy. That'd be cool. Carpenter's huge into his. Yeah, that's kind of his big thing now. I would say, like it's something that he does with his son Cody too. So I could see that. I mean, I'm sure he's much more interested in doing something with his son than anything. So good point. Good point. The whore mother didn't help poor little Frank. Yeah, that's a pretty fucked up scene. That was a very sad scene. Very sad little scene. All right, let's talk about this Bruiser 4K a little bit here. We'll get back to the comments here in a second. It's sad. Yeah, hopefully my internet's doing okay right now. I mean, I haven't seen any issues with it on my end, at least. There's some Queens of the Dead news if anybody's interested. If not, I don't mind not talking about it, honestly. So okay, got the 4K Bruiser or 4K Bruiser indicator in from the UK. Like I said, back Wednesday, I think is when I got it. Kind of been holding off on it, but finally just cracked it up last night. I said, "Fuck it, I really want to check some of this stuff out." Like I said, I haven't watched the actual film yet, so I can't really speak on the transfer looks worth the shit or not. But we'll talk about everything else. There's some good and some bad here. Just for first taking it in for the first time. Just to pack. First and foremost, what do you guys think about this artwork? This is pretty much the artwork from pretty much one of the only posters that you can get of Bruiser. It's a French, I believe. It's the French poster. Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. I don't think it. I think it. I don't know. It's just kind of a little bland, I guess is the word that I would call it. It doesn't really tell you much. It's. I mean, I guess it's not too bad. It kind of sums up the movie a little bit without giving up too much. But anyway, fuck everybody knows what it's like. One thing I didn't like about this thing is when you open it, when you take the cellophane off, it's got this little thing here on the bottom. It really doesn't. I don't know. I'm not a huge fan of these things, but I don't want to throw them away or just discard them because it's part of the package. So it's just kind of like, well, we'll hang on there. But yeah, it's kind of annoying. This was a limited edition thing. I don't know if there are any still available out there. It's got the number on here. So this is 419 of 5,000. So they did 5,000 of the 4Ks, 2,000 of the Blu-rays, I believe, and I think that's it. Like I said, it's not. It's there's going to be a U.S. version coming soon. Probably, I don't know, later this year, maybe next year sometime. So yeah, this was limited to 5,000. So I don't know if they've sold out yet or not. But just looking at the features and just kind of looking, give you a quick overview of what's on this sucker. It's 4K restoration from the original negative. So that's what kind of grabbed my attention first and foremost. Original 5.1 surround and 2.0 stereo audio tracks, usual shit. It's got the audio commentary with George and Peter Grunwald, 2001. Okay, so this archival interview with George, what years I said this from? 2013. It's a 44-minute interview with George from some random Brit. I'm not sure. Let's see if he's listed here. Audio recording legendary film and conversation with disc producer James Blackford. So I guess the guy in charge of this interviewed him back in 2013, and I was hoping, because it said it's a long lost interview with George. So I was hoping, I was like, oh, is it just about Bruiser? Is it, you know, what is it? Um, I, I was pretty disappointed with it. I mean, first of all, there's no video to it. It's just a black screen, and you just hear George talking to this guy, and it's mainly just like a 44-minute, you know, for art. Like they don't really get into weeds or really talk too much about things that, you know, they don't really. George doesn't say too much that most people don't already know. He pretty much just tells the story of his career and just kind of hits the beats and the usual. I mean, if you're not a huge Romero fan like I am and have just kind of heard every interview and every commentary track and everything, you might dig this because it is a informative interview. But I was kind of hoping because George never really talked about Bruiser all that much. But I think it's a very interesting movie for his career for a number of different reasons. A, it was the movie that got him out of his rut and brought him back and got him making movies again. Um, but I also think it just played a really big role into where his career would go and kind of the mindset that George was in going into, you know, Land of the Dead, Survival of the Dead, Diary, all that shit. Um, so I mean, yeah, it is a 44-minute interview. There's no video; it's just audio only, and it was kind of shitty because like there's been features um, on different DVDs, Blu-rays, and shit over the years, where it is just an audio commentary or an audio track, an audio interview. But most of the time, they'll put like a collage of different like behind the scenes photos and stuff like that while the interview's going on, the conversation's going on. So at least there's something to look at. But literally, you click this thing and it goes to a completely black screen, and you just hear, and you're staring at this black screen listening. So if you have something else to do during that time, it's awesome. But I was kicking back like last night when I put this thing in, and I was just kind of kicking back, ready to just sit and watch an interview with George I had never seen before, and it's just this black screen. George is talking, so um, but it is what it is. Like I said, it's an informative interview if you're not too familiar with George's story, which I don't know. I think most everybody watching this pretty familiar with George's story. Um, but I mean, it is an unheard interview. Like I don't know anywhere else that this would have been, but yeah, just kind of disappointed in that aspect of it, to be honest with you. Um, but this one kind of over delivered. And I really want to kind of dig into this. Um, Let me check, see if anybody hanging out in the comments here. Any new names or faces? Blah, 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 blah. Robert said, I just remembered Carpenter said back when he did The Ward, he was feeling like he was too old to do any more directing. Well, I mean, probably after he saw The Ward, he was probably like, yeah, I'm probably too old to be doing shit anymore. Um, let me see. The Bruiser mask always struck me as a Japanese kabuki style, an odd choice. Yeah, I mean, I think, yeah, I don't know. I think it kind of works though in a weird way. Just because it gives them the opportunity to just kind of have a blank slate on his face. I don't know. But yeah, it does kind of look like who is the wrestler from the 90s, Hakushi? What was it? Sinja was his name, his manager. Kind of had the Sinja thing going on. I might have to pull up a picture of that here. That's a really fucking obscure 90s WWF reference there. But anybody that knows what I'm talking about, tell me I'm not full of shit. Dirk says, I did finally meet Carpenter last year. Didn't get a chance to talk. We were rushed like cattle. Yeah, I hear that's kind of just how it is in conventions most of the time in general. He was cool as hell. At least I got a handshake with him. Okay, well, that's cool. Yeah, I think Carpenter's probably like Savine in a way, or maybe his just overall demeanor just kind of rubs people away. I've never met John Carpenter. That's one guy that I would love to meet that I haven't got to meet yet. Even with all the stories and shit that, I've heard about him over the years, I'd still like to meet him. Just to say I did. Grande, what's up, man? I said your ship today. Stoked to get it. Awesome. Love to get your take on it because I know you're a Bruiser fan as well. But good to see you in here, man. Hope you're doing well. Let's see, Dark Guy. He's a legend. Smoke, yeah. Sorry, I'm trying to jump around here so we can kind of keep it moving. Okay, like I said, this isn't Ask Me Anything, as it's. So here we go. What do you think of the VHS franchise? I really like it, and a new sci-fi horror is dropping this year on Shudder. I've never seen any of them. Never seen any of them. Doesn't seem like I'd be interested in, to be honest with you. Um, what was the other? There was one that people always were telling me to the ABCs of Death or something like that. I remember trying to watch that. I was like, this just ain't for me either. I think I got to C before I was like, eh. I guess people saying, what's up? Okay, since then, VHS and Rec are fun. Yeah, I like Rec. Rec is really liked Rec. That's a really good. I don't know. I guess is that a zombie movie, infected persons movie, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, I really dug that one. But I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Maybe at some point I'll check that out. But I do know that, I mean, it's kind of like this ongoing franchise now. They're putting a lot out here recently. There's more coming. Since black screen audio is damn lazy on a fancy release. It really, yeah, that's the big complaint for me, is that you're charging people, $60 for this thing. I mean, its packaging is beautiful, and a lot of people that buy this shit for this type of money, they're just like, oh, it's pretty, so I can put it on my shelf and forget about it. I personally, when I spend $60 on something, I want to watch everything on it. Like, I'm mostly buying it if there's features that I haven't seen, commentaries I haven't heard, a 4K transfer, something that's never had a 4K transfer before. Everything checked all the boxes for this release. But yeah, when I popped that in, it was just a black screen and just audio. I was like, damn. Yeah, it was a letdown. Like I said, it was like I was hoping. I was like, oh, 44-minute. This would be a home run. I'd just knock it out of the park. And I hope I'm not, down, because there is a lot of good on this Grande. So continue to look forward to it. Like I said, I haven't seen the transfer yet, but I've heard good things from people that I trust. So, but this is kind of my one biggest gripe, I think. Is just I was hoping, I was like, oh, 44-minute interview with George about Bruiser. Like, that would be something that I would pay $100 to hear. But I guess we'll just have to wait for the US version to hear that. Hopefully, Slippy's out there listening. Hint, hint. Um, I just want to hear from Michael Felcher's got these fucking tapes. For anybody that doesn't know, these tapes of the interviews he had with George, where they would watch all of his films in chronological order, watch a movie, and then talk about it on audio for an hour and a half. I'll watch a black screen for that. But yeah, so hopefully we'll hear those one day. Dirk says Indicator does a solid on most of their releases. I mean, this is a, like I said, I'll show some more of the stuff here in just a second and we'll get into it. But yeah, it's a nice set. It's definitely a nice set. Okay, yeah, maybe I will. Maybe I will. I'm very very particular about my horror. Um, and in movies in general, I'm very particular about. Um, but if I'm hearing good things from you guys, then like I'm trying to I'm eventually going to watch the video dead for Cressy 777, because he keeps talking about it, so I'm kind of determined to watch it now, and I had no interest in watching it before, so maybe I will. We'll see. Dirk says, are you tired of new films doing the retro style? No, I mean, if it's done well, like, yeah, like, I'm all for it. Like, take me back to that time. Like, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, it's a perfect example. Like, take me back to that time. Maxine, I felt like that was my biggest plus about Maxine, was that I thought that Ty West did a really, really good job of recreating 80s LA, and that's just from, I wasn't alive or in LA in the 80s or anything, so I don't really have any first person knowledge like I would some other things. Like when I talk about Southern accents and like bad Southern accents, which, there's a really fucking bad Southern accent uh, that Kevin Bacon is doing in Maxine, and it drives me absolutely insane. That just took me completely out of the movie. But no, I mean, if that's what you're going for, sure. I'm actually kind of tired of the people trying to do the 70s look or the 80s look. Like, it's time. It's time to make retro 90s feeling movies. Because those are fewer and far, they're out there, no doubt, but they're fewer and farther between. I'm just kind of done with Sweet Home Alabama and the fucking grimy 70s grindhouse look. or the 80s where everything is neon and bright. It's like, oh, they're recreating the 80s. Everything is neon and bright. And it's like, that's not in real life in the 80s. Like, not everybody had fucking current 80s looking shit. Like, when I grew up, like, we still had shit. Like, my grandparents and my parent, like, we still had shit in the 90s. Like, they were still using shit from the 70s, basically. So if you tried to recreate what my grandmother's house looked like in the 90s, you could just grab a bunch of shit from the 70s and put it in there. I mean, um, so yeah, I'm kind of over that. Um, but yeah, that's one thing that drives me nuts. I feel like if you steer too hard into the 80s aesthetic, it just comes off a little, I don't know, a little unrealistic and corny. But that's a good question. That's a really good question. I haven't really thought about that too much. Um, so yeah, not a lot of love for ABC's of Death. It's pretty bad, especially for the talent involved, says Sean. Robert says that ABC's of Death is crap. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I got to C and I was like, yeah, same for me. Um, Sean likes the first VHS. Second one I turned off pretty fast, too annoying. Yeah, I'll definitely. I'll tell you this. At some point, I will give the first VHS a chance. I'll try to give it a shot. Since as a podcast fan, audio only is fine, but on a collector set, yeah, I mean, like I said, it's totally fine if you have something else to do. Like if you're working on something or working out, whatever you're doing, it's definitely good audio to have on the background. But it just kind of sucked because I was like, had my popcorn ready, hypothetically, and it was just like, whoa, what's going on here? Like, there's nothing even to look at. Like, yeah, it's just kind of a bummer. Grande says hypothetical Romero question. You can choose any of these three Romero actresses to work with on a movie of your own. Patty Tallman, Laurie Cardille, Judith Ridley. Depends on what kind of movie I would be making. I guess in my dream world, if I were a filmmaker, uh, let's start there. What kind of movie would I make? I guess it'd probably be a horror film. Um, See, Patricia Tallman, I'm really thinking really hard, too hard on this one. So Patricia Tallman, if you think about it, you would be getting a 2-for-1 deal. A, she's a good actress, and B, she's one of the best female stunt women, you know. So you'd be getting a 2-for-1 there. Laurie Cardille would be an absolute pleasure to work with because one of the nicest people I've ever met. Period. And she can act. Probably a better actress than Patricia. Yeah. I would say she's the best actress of the three. Um, I would actually like to. If I were doing like a serious drama or something. I think I'd give Laurie a shot. And Judith Ridley, I'm a huge Judith Ridley fan, but Judith Ridley's not the greatest actor in the world. Which is why she pretty much gave up acting after There's Always Vanilla. She was just like, yeah, this ain't for me. But if I needed her to play, like um, I don't know, like a deaf mute supermodel from the 60s, maybe. I don't know. There's a role for her. I would definitely find a role for her, but I think out of those three, I'd go with Laurie Cardille. I think I'd work with Laurie, just because I feel like she would definitely be the leading actress in my film. But good question though. That was kind of hard because I mean, Patty Tallman's a good actress, good stunt woman. So you could just, she could do all of her own stunts, save me a few bucks. But yeah, but I just feel like Laurie would be a real pleasure to work with. I'm sure they all would, but Laurie in general, like just meeting her, it was just like, wow, like she's one of the nicest people ever. Since as it follows as an example of great retro soundtrack and style, I agree with that. So it can be done well. They're extending my childhood. Yeah, that's a lot of it too. I mean, they're playing on nostalgia at this point. I mean, if that's a lot of it too. I mean, nostalgia is probably the biggest seller of anything these days. I mean, I heard the other day that adults are now the biggest market for toys in the U.S. Like more adults are buying toys for themselves than for their children at this point. Like children, like kids don't give a fuck about toys anymore. Like my 3-year-old, I mean, she likes toys and stuff, but I mean, if she finds like a toy or something, she just plays with it constantly. But she's more interested in watching shit on TV. Gremlins mostly. We're still on a Gremlins kick. That's all we've been watching. So I know those movies front to back. I know them by heart. I've probably seen Gremlins now more than I've seen Dawn of the Dead. Um, so eventually, I will be changing the name of this channel to what would it be? Alpha Dante, Alpha Dante, Alpha Gizmo. We'll go Alpha Gizmo, and we'll just talk about Zach Galligan in deep detail. Dirk, yeah, Bacon's Louisiana accent was pretty bad. Yeah, thank you for agreeing with me, because Stuntman Mark was giving me shit about that on Dead Pit the other night. They all were. Well, I think it was mostly him and you, but yeah, I was getting shit because I was talking about, oh, it drove me nuts. They're like, oh no, Kevin Bacon was so good in that movie. I'm like, are you? No, too much. I heard some '90s music on classic rock stations. I'm not that damn old. Yeah, it's in there, and I've always had that question. It's like, when does classic rock begin and end? Because when I was a kid, classic rock was Led Zeppelin and all that shit. Um, and it still is. So when do we start adding new artists to the classic? And we're starting to. You're starting to hear more like Nirvana, Alice in Chains, a lot of '90s, early '90s stuff. They're not playing like. Well, I don't know. Maybe I have heard Korn on the classic radio stations before, but yeah. Robert says I really want a Ty West Blu-ray version of the Roost. I don't know if I've seen that. I don't know why. I just love that movie. I've never seen The Roost. There's a few Ty West movies I haven't seen. The Roost is one. House of the Devil is one that I really, really need to see. That's high on the list of priority watches for me. Bonnie says '80s were a lot of Brown and Wicker. Yeah. That's a good point. But like I said, my grandma's house, like even in the '90s, like mid '90s, a lot of that shit was from late '70s, early '80s, and it was a lot of Browns and yeah. Probably because everybody smoked inside back in the day. At least growing up. I mean, I never grew up in a non-smoking environment ever. Anywhere I went, my house, everybody smoked inside. My grandparents' house, everybody smoked inside. Everybody smoked in the car. Like they didn't give a shit about that shit back in the day. Like they were just like, we're lighting up at the kitchen table and we're all just gonna sit here and talk for 3 hours and just smoke this pack of cigarettes. And all the kids are just running around like, woo. Yeah, I don't know. Crazy times back then. But maybe that's why everything was brown. Everything was, smoke stained back in the day. Larry, what's up, man? Hey, I'm finally catching you live. What's up, man? Yeah, we're just talking, going through this Bruiser 4K release tonight. I was just talking about I don't know if you caught it, the Romero interview. I don't know if you've checked out I don't know, did you pick, I'm pretty sure you picked up this 4K. I don't know if you've gotten it yet or not, but I don't want to spoil anything if you're waiting to get it to look and see for yourselves. Um, so just a word of warning there. But we were talking about the Romero interview or audio interview that's uh, on the disc. Not a big fan of it, and I'll just leave it at that. I only saw the first VHS, so I can't comment on the series. Yeah, Tallman's more versatile. Sean says, have you seen any of the Night of the Living Dead stage plays that are on YouTube? I've not seen them. I do have that playbill or whatever that Will gave me. Got it displayed over there, which is pretty cool from a product. But I've never seen any of the stage plays. No, I'm not a. That's one that I would love to see. I remember the Evil Dead stage play from back in the day, where they'd give you like it was like a Gallagher concert. Where have the plastic sheet that you can put up so you didn't get covered in blood and shit. Like I'd love to have seen that, but I just don't go to many plays. We don't have very many playhouses in Western Kentucky. We had the Alhambra Theater. We'd go when we were in elementary school and we'd go see like 101 Dalmatians or Grease or something like that. But no, not too cultured when it comes to the theater. Night of the Living Dead was Puppets was amusing and episodes on YouTube. Huh. Well, I know I did see. Well, I haven't watched it because I don't know why would I, but I did see the other day that they had a Blu-ray of that Night of the what is it called? Night of the Animated Dead or something like that. Like there's a small part of me that's just like morbidly curious to be like, what is this? maybe I should check it out. Should I watch it? I don't know if any of you guys have seen it. Is it worth checking out just for morbid curiosity? Let me know. But no, I've never seen any of the puppets. Um, uh, wouldn't make the sequel to There's Always Chocolate. Uh, no, I think we're good with vanilla on this one. I think we're good with vanilla. Um, she's better in vanilla than I. Yeah, yeah. But I mean, she would even admit she was like, I just wasn't an actress. I just didn't have it. Um, Robert saying It Follows has a great soundtrack. Since saying Bacon's not a great actor anyway, I actually like Bacon quite a bit. I like a lot of Kevin Bacon, but this is one where it was just like not believable. Took me out of the movie, unfortunately. Gremlins is one of the best movies ever. I mean, I agree with you at this point. With all the stupid remakes, why can't we get a Gremlins 3? I don't understand. I don't know if I want to see a Gremlins 3. I mean, if we do, it'll be an opportunity to take my daughter to the theater to see it, but I don't know if she'd like it. She doesn't, because I feel like if they do a Gremlins 3, it would be a lot of CGI. It would just be a different thing altogether. I don't know how she would react to that because she's used to watching the first two where everything's, the animatronic puppets and, you know, uh, real shit going on. So I don't know. That'd be interesting. I'd wonder how she'd feel about that. But I'm really surprised they haven't done that, to be honest with you. I don't know. I've heard some rumors in the past that they might do something with a Gremlins sequel or requel or prequel or reboot or reimagining or whatever the fuck they call it these days. Granny says, House of the Devil, you watch the lady who does Wells Fargo's commercial sit in a house for an hour, 40 to nothing. Ty Kanye Southwest stinks. Oh, Granny's not a Ty West fan. Well, I mean, I've heard. Well, speaking of like retro movies, I've heard that it does a really good job of recreating an '80s vibe. So that kind of piques my interest. I don't really know too much else about it, but that does pique my interest. Um, but yeah, I'd be. I don't know. That doesn't sound too fun. It doesn't sound too fun at all. But Robert says House of the Devil is beautiful and boring. Okay. Well, I mean, I kind of like beautiful, boring movies sometimes. If it's done right, you know. I've sat through some Bergman shit. I've sat through the Seventh Seal. That shit's, you know, in terms of like shit happening on screen, there's not a lot of action to it. It's boring in that way, but it is beautiful to look at, um, and there's a lot to it for the soul. It's entertaining to your soul. Anyway, House of the Devil, Innkeeper, and Sacrament are all awesome, says Sean. Okay. Yeah, the Innkeeper is another one that I still need to check out. House of the Devil's favorite Ty West film, says Derek. Okay. So we got people saying hi. Hi, Larry. Larry says, I ordered it, didn't get it yet. Yeah, did you get it from Diabolic? I think, like I said, I think that's kind of a common thing that I've heard from quite a few people. How's this? Slow burn, says Dirk. Dirk says, who would you say are your three favorite directors besides Romero? Interesting. Argento would be in that conversation. Argento and Kubrick would both be in that conversation for me. I love those for very different reasons. I mean, they're all very different style of filmmakers. Yeah, Kubrick and Argento would definitely be in that conversation. I don't know who would be first and second on that list. It changes from time to time. I'd probably say Argento is probably my second favorite filmmaker behind Romero. Then right behind him would be Kubrick. And number three, who would be number three on my list? Mark Borchardt, director of Coven. And it's Coven, not Coven, because Coven sounds like oven, man. And you just can't have that. I'd probably put him on the list. I don't know if I'd say he's number three. But I like Mark more for his personality and radio stuff and shit like that more so than his films. I mean, Carpenter would be up there probably. Carpenter would be in conversation for three. Kevin Smith, honestly, I've always been a huge Kevin Smith fan. He'd be in the conversation for number three. Tarantino, I mean, I love me some Tarantino. Cassavetes is a big one here recently that I just love his style. I don't know if you guys haven't seen a John Cassavetes film like Faces or Shadows, Woman Under the Influence. Definitely a different type of filmmaker, different type of movies. What I love about his movies is that the dialogue in the movies feel very, very natural. And that's because the way he does dialogue, he'll write the script, the actors will read the script, they'll memorize the script, and then they will rehearse and rehearse and rehearse and rehearse. And he spends so much time rehearsing. By the time that they set up the cameras to film it, he just says, okay, now ad lib, and just throw out the script. You know the lines, you know your character, you know where the conversation needs to go because we've rehearsed this so many times, and you kind of know that there's certain beats you got to hit, but the rest of it, just say it like you think this character would say it. And the conversations in those movies feel so natural. Um, it's just you see stuff you don't see in another movie. But I'm a huge Cassavetes fan. Um, but uh, but yeah, there's so many. I don't know if I could just narrow it down to top three. Let me see. Trying to catch up here. We'll get back to the Bruiser. Uh, Robert's not a fan of Kevin Bacon either. Okay, I didn't know we had a bunch of non Kevin Bacon members here. Um, Sean says I collect all versions of Night of the Living Dead, animated, British dub. Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Like I said, I just bought that Night of the Living Dead 3D on DVD, and it's not something I love, but yeah, I'm kind of the same way. Stir of Echoes, Kevin Bacon's best performance. Yeah, I mean that's not a bad choice. Um, I love Tremors. I don't give a fuck. My favorite Kevin Bacon performance is Tremors. I don't care. He's just too cool. Like when I was a kid, like that was I looked up to fucking Kevin Bacon and Tremors. I was like, that's who I want to be. John, what's up, man? John Villo's in here. Been here. What's happening, my man? Hope you're doing well. Robert said, I just want to say this is the first live stream I've ever cared about. I look forward to this. So thank you so much. That's really, really cool. I really appreciate that. I appreciate you tuning out. I don't even know what to say about it. Thank you though. That's really, really cool. I really appreciate that. Yeah, I started doing this because I needed an outlet to talk about Romero and shit that I care about, and just no, you don't really know too many people that are that into this shit that you can talk to on a daily basis. So, and it was just kind of a creative outlet. And, I was a big fan of deadpit.com and the Pit channel on YouTube. I've been watching guys like Dirk with the Subjective Perspective Collective, Garrett with Born to Be Rad. Like I started getting into watching those a lot. I was like, oh, this looks really fun. Like I'd like to do this and just kind of sit and talk, and maybe somebody will care, maybe somebody won't. You never know. And when I first started, like it was just me talking to myself. Like there's nobody in here. So the fact that you really dig it, I really appreciate that, man. That's really, really cool. Thank you so much. Been here to start the stream, saying hi. Well, I appreciate you stopping saying hi, man. It's good to know you. Good to know you're watching. John's a good man. Good man. Let's see, Larry says, please have Will Phelps on as much as possible. I want him to get tired of George Romero and Don again and sell all his shit. Oh man. Yeah, he that's a sore subject with Will, Larry. It sucks because every time like he'll be talking about he'll be like, oh man, I had this really cool thing, and man, and I was like, oh well, what happened to it? I sold it. Like, you stupid fucker. I'll see what I can do for you, man. I'll see what I can do. Coven like oven, the master thespian spoke. Stukas, what's up, man? Howdy, fellas. Good to see you, Stukas. Hope you're doing well on this Monday night. I know weren't you at the beach here recently? Are you back from the beach yet? Since Cassavetes was good, way better as a director than an actor. Peter Falk and his stuff too. Yeah, I mean, just I don't know. I'm not too familiar with Cassavetes as an actor. To be honest with you, I know he's in stuff. But I was never like, oh, Cassavetes. That's an actor's name that just pops off the tongue. But Mark Borchardt. Speaking of Coven, yeah, his radio show that he does up in Wisconsin, he's always talking about Cassavetes, and I was like, who is this? I've never even fucking heard of. So I watched Faces, Was the first movie that I saw his, and Faces is 68. It's from the Walter Reed Foundation. Is actually, I, th- I think it was them that put out Faces as well. So they put it out the same year as Night of the Living Dead. So it's just two completely opposite types of films that they put out. Um, but it changed the way I watched movies. It just changed the way that I judged movies. On like, I don't know, it got me. There were, and then watching Woman Under the Influence, fucking powerful movie. Great performance too. Um, but yeah, love some Cassavetes. I got some people saying hello. Dirk says Kubrick's my all-time favorite, then Baba, then Fulci. Yeah, I mean Kubrick. I've never seen anything that I didn't like from Kubrick. I was never There's never been a movie, even Eyes Wide Shut. Like that's one of the last Kubrick movies that I decided to watch when I was younger. I was probably like 16, 17 years old. And and the first time I saw it, I was just like, because everybody hated that movie. That was the big thing. It was like, oh, Kubrick went out on a real stinker. Like, oh, he saved worst for last. And then it took me a while to watch it. I was like, I don't want to, because I love everything Kubrick, and I don't want to watch a movie that sucks. Then when I saw it, I was like, man, this might be my favorite Kubrick film. Like, I love so much about that. So again, speaking of slow burn, beautiful and boring movies, a lot of people saw the Eyes Wide Shut and saw a long, drawn out, boring ass movie. When I saw it, it was just like I was in a different world. It just had this otherworldly feel to it, and the score was cool, and it just took weird left and right turns, and the characters were the way they talked to each other. It was just something completely different, and I've always loved Eyes Wide Shut. That might be my favorite Kubrick film. It's between that and Clockwork Orange, maybe. Might be my two top ones. But then you think you're leaving out Shining, and you're leaving out uh, Doctor Strangelove, and 2001 might be on the bottom of that list for me. That's one I need to go back and, because I know Grande was doing a stream about Kubrick not too long ago, and he was talking about 2001 and really praising it, really putting it over, and it really made me want to go back and rewatch it. So that's definitely on the list of something to go back and, because it's been quite a while since I've seen it. But I remember watching it first time and was just kind of like, this it looks really cool. It has a good vibe to it, but man, is this drag? So maybe I just need to go back and give it another shot. Mayor, what's up, man? Got to cut loose. Well, I didn't know you were in here, brother. Just stopping in, man. Um, Fellow Trimmers fan. Hell yeah, Trimmers is awesome. Uh, yeah, Mayor lurking. Hey, Mayor, he just showed up. Anyway, uh, whether you've been here, whether you're just now getting here, always good to see the mayor. Always good to have the mayor. Who says we get big time fans in the chat? But the mayor himself is here. Sean says Lynch, Argento, Romero for you. David Lynch is an interesting. David Lynch. There's some movies of his that I really love, and there's some movies of his that I'm just couldn't get into. Just didn't like. Um, Honestly, the Twin Peaks series. The first season of Twin Peaks for me was like, wow, this is really good. Then season 2 started, and I was like, this got way too Lynchian, way too fast for me. Rob, what's up, man? Rob Lucas in the house. Keeping that love flame burning as always. Rob says, Romero and his eyes have always been a passion for me, and I found a home where here when it comes to that. Yeah, man. That's another reason I want to do this, is to hopefully meet other people, like-minded people, like Will, Larry, Synth, you know, everybody. It's really really fun doing this. I really appreciate you guys supporting it and keeping it going, because like I said, I just want to try to give back and do something, keep George's name out there, keep George's his legacy going, I guess, in some small way, just the way that I feel like I could do it. There are plenty other people out there doing way more than I do, and way better work than I do, but in my own little way, this is my way to get back and say, you know, let's keep the Romero name strong and in people's memory. Uh, Stuka says I was at Disto Island, South Carolina, back home and sober. Well, congratulations, man. I'm not too familiar. I don't think I've ever been to South Carolina. Period. But that's pretty awesome. Since says American movie is one of the funniest movies ever made. Commentary as well as he argues with himself as it plays. Yeah, it's great movie. That's on my list of all time favorite movies. Is American movie. I feel like that it's perfect in so many like it just I don't know why, but it's a movie I watch every year around Thanksgiving. Like it's a Thanksgiving. It's like to me like Thanksgiving rolls around. You're watching planes, trains, and automobiles, um, whatever the hell else you throw in a wash. To quote Mark Borchardt. But American Movie is one I watch every year for Thanksgiving. I don't know why. I mean, they celebrate Thanksgiving for like 5 minutes in the movie at one point, but there's just something about that movie that just it feels right to watch around that time of year. Eyes Wide Shut really pissed off an ex-girlfriend's family as we went as a group, and I'll always love it for that. Yeah, that'd be a weird movie to take the family to go see for sure. Um, Dirk says mine's The Shining, hands down, but Eyes Wide Shut is definitely second. It's a lot going on. No, yeah, there's Eyes Wide Shut. Like I know you did a stream months back, talking all about Eyes Wide Shut, and there's so much to dissect about that movie, so much conspiracy wise that you can really get into with that movie. It's awesome. Um, yeah, The Shining's definitely up there too. I mean, God, you talk about uh, you know I know we're the subjective perspective collective, but objectively speaking, The Shining might be the greatest horror movie ever made. That's the thing about Kubrick. It's like you can make a legitimate argument that Kubrick made the best movie in every genre that he did. Best horror movie, you can make the argument that The Shining is the best horror movie ever made. Best science fiction movie ever made. You can make the argument that 2001: A Space Odyssey is the greatest sci-fi movie ever made. You can make the argument that Full Metal Jacket or um, what was that other one that he made? I'm blanking. It's one of his earlier movies, but you can make the argument he made the best horror movie ever made. Um, you can make that argument about pretty much all of Kubrick's movies. So yeah, it's hard to really rank them for me, but just personal, like what I like to go back and watch most often. It's probably Eyes Wide Shut and then Clockwork Orange. Those two you can watch anytime. Stukas likes the old Planet of the Apes movies. It's been a long time. I think I've only seen the first one, Planet of the Apes, but it's been a long fucking time. Grant says, my stream that was longer than Barry. But hey, you were talking. I mean, it was a good stream, man. Just go. Shit, that's what I end up doing sometimes. I get on here with Larry or Will or somebody, and we end up just babbling for 4 hours, and it's just like, what the hell? Like, don't worry. Like, no, I would have been totally fine with you doing a 4-hour stream on Kubrick that night because I was loving every minute of that, man. Lynch is a great acquired taste. Yeah, it's a good way to put it. Any love for Godzilla -1, says Rob. I have not seen it yet, but I have been urged by most people that I trust to see it, that I would like it. And I don't like Godzilla movies. I don't like monster movies, really. Like, that's not really my thing. And people know that, but they're still like, no, it's actually a really good movie. I think you would really like it. So yeah, I need to check it out. Stukas is agreeing. -1's great. Sean says I just watched Godzilla -1 actually on YouTube today. I thought it was excellent. Okay, it's on YouTube. Oh, I guess maybe if you pay for it, maybe. Since The Shining, like The Thing, is a perfect movie. Cinematography, score, sound, acting, atmosphere, etc. Yeah, I mean, I can't argue against that. Original Planet of the Apes was great. I think I'm pretty much caught up on all the comments here. Let me try to get back to the Bruiser here. So okay, yeah, we got the packaging. Looking at so what I wanted to talk about, I was really impressed with. So they have it's like an 11-minute interview with Jason Fleming, the star of Bruiser. Getting back to that, and it's kind of I think it's the first time that I've ever heard Jason Fleming talking about Bruiser, and his experience working with George. So it was really interesting to finally hear that. I don't know if I'm freezing up yet. Got showing a little weak signal here. Maybe I think I'm okay. But yeah, it's kind of the first time I've ever heard Jason talk about his time working on Bruiser and his memories of working with George. And he really had nothing but great things to say about working with George. Like you could tell, like he had a great time doing it, which is why he said that's why I'm taking time out to do this interview is because I have such respect and love and so many great memories of working with George that it's an honor to come on here and talk about it. Um, but the one thing that really stood out, I'm not going to go beat for beat and talk about everything that he talked about, but the one thing that really stood out for me, in listening to him talk about his experience working with George on Bruiser and all that, was talking about George's way that he directed actors, where George was more like we've always heard that George is kind of more stand off, let the actor do their thing. And George is just, thrilled, like, oh, yeah, we'll do one thing. Oh, that was perfect. Well, let's move on. And he'll let the actors try something different. He's very flexible with his actors. We've always known that. But the way Fleming put it, it was just like, George just was like, he's like, I felt like I could do better on this, but George was just like, "No, man, that's great." He actually does a really good George impression, believe it or not. Uh, so that's something to look forward to when you're watching. It's pretty funny. But he said, George would just be like, "Oh man, that's fantastic. That's great. Let's move on." And he'd be like, "Oh, really?" Like he would say like, "Oh, George would make you feel so good about your performance and what you just did that you just love the man for it. You love work." But he compared it to working with Fincher, which David Fincher is another filmmaker that I like. Um, but he compared it to working with Fincher because he said he'd worked with Fincher on a couple of films before, and he said it's just a completely different style. And it kind of makes a lot of sense when you think. So George, when he was doing Bruiser, that was his first movie back. He'd just been fucked with for the last 7 or 8 years in Hollywood. Couldn't get anything greenlit. Couldn't get anything made. So he finally, goes back back to his roots, back to basics, indie filmmaking. And he said George was just so happy to be making a movie again. And George just loved being on set, loved making movies. Like George just loves making movies. So anytime, when an actor's doing something, it's just like he's just thrilled that whereas Fincher he's like when you're on a David Fincher set, everything is really tense. Everybody's like on edge to be, elite and be the best at what they're doing all the time. And if Fincher thinks that anything that you do is remotely off of what he wants, he makes you do it again and again and again, kind of like Kubrick in a way. Which I've always kind of had that thought of like, how good of a director are you really if it takes you 100 takes to get something right? Like maybe you're just not conveying what the hell you want, or maybe some of these directors maybe they don't know how. And not that that's a bad thing, but maybe sometimes a director just doesn't know how to convey what he wants. He just knows what he wants, and when he gets it, he knows when he's got it. But I don't know. That's just my thing. But he says, Fincher's very particular and he makes you do a lot of takes and he has exactly what he wants. Where George will just kind of let you kind of carry it yourself, kind of open up and do your own interpretation of his material. And he's just thrilled that you know, that you're taking it seriously. So I thought that was a really interesting comment there from Fleming. And he did mention that there were probably some issues that George had on the set with some of the money people kind of popping their hand into the pie every now and then, just kind of saying, hey, maybe we should try. And you could tell he was like, you can tell when George had just been told to try something different. He'd come back and be like, okay, guys, they want us to try to do it this way instead of what we just did. So he said that there was a little bit of meddling on the set that he remembered from some of the money backers on Bruiser. So I don't know. It's a really interesting. Like I said, it was like 11 minutes. It's just cool hearing from Flynn. I haven't seen much of his newer stuff lately. It's been a while since I've seen him in anything. But it was just interesting to hear his recollection and perspective on working with George, and you could tell he just had nothing but admiration and um, just seems like a really really cool guy. You never really know some of these people, especially somebody like Jason Fillmore, who's probably never been asked about this stuff before. Um, I'd love to hear. It's not on here on this version, but maybe on the U.S. release, I would love for Peter Stormare to, uh, I mean, maybe not do a commentary, but just a little 11-minute interview, just to hear something, some memory or his thoughts on the movie in general. Um, I would love to hear that. But it was really cool hearing from Jason here and getting his perspective on working with George and the film as a whole. So that's definitely a big thumbs up feature on this sucker. I highly recommend checking that out. Um, a perfect fit 2024 9-minute interview. Uh, what was that? I don't remember. Dr. Chud, the former Misfits drummer, talks about the band's appearance in the film and contribution to the soundtrack. I didn't check that out, but I do need to check that out. That sounds interesting. The Worm That Turned from 2024, 12-minute critical appreciation by Kim Newman, the guy I was talking about, author of Nightmare Movies. That was actually pretty interesting. He's kind of like I said, a British hoity-toity kind of guy. So he's kind of bringing more of um, I don't know, a philosophical view of what he took away from Bruiser. But it's interesting. Look, at this point, I'm fucking eating this shit up just because it's anybody talking about Bruiser. It's a movie that was just forgotten when it came out, and nobody talks about it, nobody gave a shit about it. It was just like, have you seen, like, I know people that have seen like all of George's movies except for Bruiser. They're just like, yeah, I just never saw Bruiser. I didn't feel like I needed to. So I'm happy shit that people are starting to analyze and talk about this movie again. And I think that's I hope that's what happens when, more people start seeing it and are kind of revisiting it and giving it another shot. In hindsight. Introduction by Jean-Baptiste Thoret. I guess that's how you pronounce it. 2022, 10-minute. The French filmmaker and critic looks at Bruiser in the context of Romero's wider career. I haven't checked that out yet, but that sounds like something I do need. I'm going to check out once I hop up here, actually. Bruiser soundtrack demo. That's interesting. Previously unheard excerpt from Dr. Chud's unused score. That's it. I didn't know he was supposed to do the score originally. Of course, Donald Rubinstein ended up doing the score on this, which is one of the. I don't know. I have mixed feelings on that. There are parts of it that I really like, and then there are parts that it was just like, it's just kind of the wrong fit for what they were going for. Original theatrical trailers, image gallery, promotional publicity materials, new and improved English subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing, which I might be after this past weekend. Limited edition exclusive 80. I don't even think I even talked about what the fuck I did this weekend. Limited edition exclusive 80-page book with a new essay by Craig Ian Mann, an extensive archival interview with George A. Romero, an in-depth location report, a look at the Misfits Romero directed music video, an overview. Okay, so this is all in the book, basically. And yes, it comes with a little booklet here. And this is actually a really cool shot of George I don't recall ever seeing. This is on the set of Bruiser. I'll get a little closer there for you. Yeah, it's a nice little book. And like I said, I haven't checked this out yet, but I'm definitely looking forward to reading this because I'm all about hearing, reading, listening to anything that anybody has to say about Bruiser. Because you just don't get a lot of that. But yeah, I mean, there's interviews in here. There's all kinds of different shit in here. I do feel like, because I'll admit, like most of the times when I get a set that has a book in it, I never read anything in it. It's just a book that's in there. I feel like they waste a lot of time and money putting these things together. I would think. Wouldn't you think? Like, how many people are actually like sitting there reading these books? They just, they're just part of the collection and people move on. I don't know. But when it comes to George stuff or anything, like, yeah, I'm always going to check out the books and just see what people are saying. Although sometimes you get some of these critics or whatever you want to call them on there, and it's just like they take it way out into left field, and you're just like, I don't want to read any of this. But and then the other big thing, of course, this is the biggest positive for this 4K. So this is the actual thing that comes in. It's a nice little, I don't know what you call it, digipack. I think that's what it's called. Digipack there. And then there you go. That's what it looks like. There's the back. I will say the big positive about this is that it is one disc. I was kind of thinking because a lot of the time you get something that is region locked or supposedly, 4Ks in general are not region locked. That's the thing. A 4K will work on any region 4K player. So, and good thing about that is if everything, including all the special features, the interviews, everything, they're all on this one 4K disc. So you can play it in the United States with a region-free 4K player. Because I know in the past, it's like with the Martin release from Second Sight or the Dawn release from Second Sight, And a lot of the times, if you get region lock stuff from overseas, it'll come with the 4K, which you can watch on just a regular 4K player, but the bonus features and shit will be on a Blu-ray. And unless you have a region-free Blu-ray player, you're not able to watch any of the features. Like I know plenty of people who have that Dawn box set who've seen the actual 4K of the movie, but have never seen any of the documentaries or bonus features on it because they don't have a region-free Blu-ray player. So that's a really cool aspect of this that I think is worth it alone, if you, especially if you don't have a region-free Blu-ray player. If you have a 4K player, you can see everything there is on this disc. All special features, commentaries, interviews, everything is on one disc. So that was a big plus for me when I opened it. And like I said, I haven't watched the actual movie yet. Saving that for a possible future stream. But I think as a whole, I mean, it's a pretty solid package, and I forget what I paid for it, but it was pretty much the going rate for a new box set. And it's 4K Bruiser. Fuck, you know, I'll pay quite a bit for it. Let me just put it that way. Yeah, but I recommend picking it up. I don't, like I said, it's limited. I don't know how many are still available. I'm sure there are quite a few probably still available, I would guess, maybe. I mean, there's a lot of people over here in the States ordering it, but would I recommend it? Well, I guess I'll have to wait until I see the actual movie to let you know what the transfer looks like. But like I said, I feel like if you can wait for the eventual US release, like I said, I don't know when it's going to happen. I do know it's happening. If you can wait to pick it up, then I would say you're probably okay to, because like I said, the biggest things on this feature wise, I would guess they would probably, I don't know. I mean, I'll say this: if you really want to see those bonus features, I'd say it's worth checking out, worth picking up. Or if you're just a collector in general, it's literally the first version of Bruiser 4K. So if you can't wait, I'd recommend picking it up. I'm happy with the purchase. Outside of that Romero interview, the audio with the black screen, and that was kind of disappointing, I'll admit. But outside of that, I mean, I think it's pretty solid. So would recommend, as they say. Let me roll up here, get back some of these comments with you guys. Sean says YouTube has really been slipping on pulling down new movies recently. Godzilla, newest Ghostbusters, etc. Well, that's interesting. They don't slip at all when I try to post any fucking thing on there. I was trying. So the story is, I was trying to post the work print version of Night 90, and yeah, that got stricken down pretty damn fast from Sony. So yeah, I don't know how they're getting, unless it's like a bootleg maybe version of it. I don't know. I'm sure there's some workaround to it. Who knows? Saying it was free. That's weird. Jealous. Mayor says that's how I first saw Terrifier 2. Somebody had uploaded it to YouTube. That's weird. That's interesting. How are you finding this shit? I don't see any of this stuff on YouTube. Actually, somebody asked me about Terrifier earlier. I've only seen the second one. I've only seen part 2. It's just because I had to see it in the theater because it was just getting so much buzz and hype. And usually, any horror movie that has that kind of hype to it, I got to check it out. I'll say I'm interested in checking out the third one coming out later this year. Just for the hell of it. I wasn't. I'll say that like when I saw Terrifier 2, like there was it's too long for one. I think everybody agrees with that. But there were moments in where I was just like, this is just too over the top. This is just too much. But then it just made me realize like that's probably what older people were saying. Back in the 80s when the Friday the 13th movies were out, they were probably saying, "Oh, this is just going too far for no reason. This is just going too far." The old school horror fans, that grew up with, Frankenstein, Dracula, those type of movies. They probably thought the same thing about Friday the 13th. So it just kind of, I just had to remind myself like, it's just maybe a generational thing. I don't know. But to me, it like did go a little too far at times. Like it was just like, just I don't know, too far just to go too far. I think. Since this Fleming had a podcast for a while on addiction and life, a wild person. Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. So Fincher is happy unless it's Aliens 3. Yeah, I wouldn't be too happy if I directed Aliens 3 either. Robert says, why doesn't anyone talk about George Romero's Presents Bedtime Stories, Volume 1 and 2? I like them. Maybe that's something I'll do in the future, because I own both of those. I don't think I've ever seen either one of those all the way through. Um, but yeah, maybe I'll check that out. Maybe I'll do that for a future stream at some point. Maybe we'll do like a watch along or something with those. Awesome. Planet of the Apes is amazing. Rob, you're on a big Planet of the Apes kick all of a sudden. Just pointing that out. Stugas, did I watch The Battery yet? No, I have not. I tried on this is the God honest truth, and if you watch my channel and you see my internet issues, you know I'm telling the truth. I found it on Tubi just the other night. I started to watch it. I hit the play button, and then the internet gave out, and it wasn't working. And I was just like, "Fuck it, I'm not watching anything." I was just so pissed at the. I don't know, man. The internet here's bad. So, I don't know. Getting cranky about it. So far, I think I'm okay so far, but you never know. But no, I'm definitely planning on checking it out. Especially I know that it's on Tubi for sure. Rob says I gotta watch Bruiser again myself. I remember I loved George, but thought Bruiser was 5 out of 10 when I saw it. Yeah, like that was a lot of people thought that. I liked it the first time I saw it because that was right around the time that I was first getting into George. So I was happy to see like, oh, a new George movie. And it wasn't what I was expecting, and I think that was a big issue for a lot of people because it was kind of sold as like if you look at the poster, it just kind of looks like a slasher or something, you know. Um, but it's not a slasher at all. I mean, it is a guy in a mask killing people, but it's a completely different type of movie. And I think it's a movie that George at the time was really, really proud of. Like, I really, truly believe George, when he finished making Bruiser, was like very, very proud of it. And I think the response, the reception, just the lack of distribution, the lack of promotion of it, um, I don't know. I kind of get the feeling that kind of, I don't know, made George start second guessing himself. And I think that's why he went why Land of the Dead was kind of where he went and started. He kind of tried to work within a system to make a zombie movie, and that's all he could make. I mean, we talked about a minute ago. George just loved making movies. He didn't care if he was on set making a movie. He was happy, and I think that's just a part of later half George, later in life George's later career. I think George just loved making movies. He didn't. He was like, hey, if I got to make another zombie movie to make a movie about something else, fuck it, I'll do it. And you can see that in those later zombie movies that George didn't quite have as much passion for the creatures themselves anymore, as much as he had a passion for whatever he was trying to accomplish or say in those movies. I guess is what I'm trying to get at. Um, but yeah, I feel like Bruiser. I feel like George was very proud of Bruiser because it is a very different type of movie. It's a very I think Kim Newman, who since mentions here in the chat, in his portion of it, Kim Newman kind of talks about like this is kind of blue collar George, or no, white collar George. Whereas George from the '60s, '70s, early '80s, that was blue collar George. Um, Whereas by the time he gets to Bruiser, I mean he points out you see it a little bit in the Dark Half and Monkey Shines. By the time you get to Bruiser, it really is. I mean, it is a white collar horror. It's a very different tone. It's a very different movie for George, and I feel like George is proud of it. And I feel like it kind of broke his spirit a little bit that it wasn't received well at all by most people. Most people didn't get it because they were thinking, "Holy shit, the guy who made Dawn of the Dead is finally making another movie. We got to check this out. Oh, it looks like a fucking slasher. This is killer. Let's watch this shit." And they watched it, and it's just like, this is not at all what I was expecting. Because at times it kind of it's a completely different type of movie. Kind of feels like American Psycho at times. But I feel like enough time has passed, and you can kind of put it in the perspective of where George was at in his career at the time and where George was at in his life. If you really look at it and you watch it with that in mind, and kind of thinking like, if you know like personally like where he was at that time, you can kind of see like you can see the seeds were being planted for you know uh, his divorce and a lot of that stuff. Where you can see like there's a lot. Belcher said in the past that Bruiser is 100% George's angriest film, and it really is. Like George at that time was angry at the world, like he'd been fucked with for the past 7 or 8 years. I don't think he was at a place personally where he was, you know, at his best. Um, but I don't know. That's just kind of my take on it. I don't know. I'm just kind of rambling now, just talking about it. Um, but yeah, I think that definitely made George start second guessing what, because I think, like I said, I think he thought it was a great movie. I thought he really was very proud of it, and that's exactly, but it just wasn't received well. So when he thought, well, maybe what I want to make doesn't sell anymore, so maybe I should, if I want to make movies, that's all I want to do. That's what I love to do. If I want to make movies, I'm just gonna have to make zombie movies, and he didn't really try to do anything else other than that after that, because honestly, people, you know, they'd go, oh, well, last time you tried to make something without zombies, you made fucking Bruiser. Nobody saw that fucking thing. And he's like, yeah, you're right. I guess I'll make, you know, Survival of the Dead. Okay. But I would have loved to have seen one more non-zombie Romero film. Just one more. I know, I mean, he was working on some, and George was always writing, always had stuff going on, stuff in the pipeline, but I would, it is what it is. But since there's Kim Newman's Nightmare movies from book from the 80s, you have that. Okay. Yeah, I've seen him before. Like he's been interviewed for all those, like, top 100 scariest movie moments. I think he was in that Bravo did back in the day. I've seen him around quite a bit. I mean, he's a smart guy. I definitely enjoy listening to him, but he's a character though. That's for damn sure. Uh, okay, Mayor always reads the books, come with the movies. Okay, awesome. For the most part, that is true about 4Ks. There have been a handful of times that a 4K was region locked. Yeah, I've heard they're starting to do that a little more and more here lately. I don't know. I don't know if that's what the plan is to just do in general going forward, or what's going on with that, but I've heard that that's becoming an issue. We'll see. But yeah. Like I said, I don't read all the books. But if it's something that I'm really interested in, like if it's an Argento or Romero or something that I'm really, really interested in looking at and checking out, then yeah, I'll definitely read it. And that's why I try not to spend too much money on some of these releases. Like I just spent a shitload of money on that Severance sale, but it was just because everything was so cheap and I was able to just pick up all this shit that I didn't have. So I couldn't say no to that. Um, but typically, like the bigger box sets, like even that, like I love opera, but even that big box set that Severn had, I didn't get it because I was just like, they're probably just gonna have a standard edition at some point. I guess I can just get that, but and maybe at some point I'll come across it on eBay or something for a decent price. But usually with that type of stuff though, they kind of go out of print and the price only goes up. So yeah, maybe I fucked up on that, but what the hell. I talked myself out of buying way more shit than you guys probably think. You see all this fucking shit behind me, and you're like, but no, I have a bad. I don't know if it's a bad thing, but it's a habit for sure. Talking myself out of shit. Stugas, someone gifted me a trilogy of Night Dawn Day Australian version in like 2007. Never got to watch it because it was region locked. That's a pretty cool collection there. I think I know which version you're talking about. But yeah, the DVDs, yeah, like that the UK release of Dawn of the Dead that had the Savini and Stavrakis commentary on it. I wanted to hear that for years and years and years, and finally when I broke down and bought a region free Blu-ray player, um, that was one of the first things I bought, and totally worth it. But like, yeah, if you guys don't have a region free Blu-ray player, I'd recommend investing in it, especially if you love film, you love physical media. It's definitely worth investing in because you can get a lot of really good shit from overseas for really good prices too. I mean, um, some of the stuff from overseas is cheaper than shit over here in the States. So, but there's just so much out there that's region locked that unless you have a region free player, you're never gonna see. Or um, but it's not necessary, but it's a nice option to have. You know. John says, any of those region locked Blu-rays, I've gotten into a habit of ripping the entire disc to an MVK file. Did it for Second Sight Dawn and Argento full frame. Yeah, I have a software fuck, I can't think what it's called. But yeah, it'll rip all the shit off of a region lock disk. So that's another option if you'd rather do that. It's a little maybe a little cheaper option. I'm sure you can find different. I'm trying to think what the hell it is, but it's on my other computer. Um, Robert says I'm getting the DVD. I can wait. Yeah, I mean, yeah. If you just piqued the interest of just going back and rewatching it, uh, DVD's fine. It like I said, it doesn't look the greatest, but it's definitely fine to go back and give it another watch. And they're cheap too. That's the thing too. I feel like they sold a shitload of DVDs back in the day because you see them all. Like I see them all the time at like used stores and stuff. Since says you need that dongle. I just like the word dongle. I'm gonna use that a lot. I need to. Where are you going? Oh, I'm going to Best Buy. I'm going to buy a dongle. The hell's that? Audio is choppy, staticky here and there with long stretches of clarity. Okay. Well, I'm trying. Doing what I can here. I'll look into that dongle. Or what did you say earlier? Thunderbolt to Ethernet or whatever. Robert says first movie I ever saw in theaters is Beetlejuice. I've been waiting for this movie for decades. They better not mess it up. Yeah, I don't know, but I was never a huge like my sister was a huge Beetlejuice fan when we were a kid, but I was just never big into it. I was more of a Edward Scissorhands guy myself. When I was a kid, I loved Edward Scissorhands. Still do. Since says, oh yeah, the score alone will keep that 990 work print from staying up as well. Well, wasn't the score like the score and like didn't do anything. It was just the movie itself. Um, Sony, yeah, they don't fuck around. Sean says Ghostbusters Frozen Empires uploaded 6 hours ago and then has been viewed 161,000 times so far for free. Well, shit, I need to start doing that. I just raise my subscriber count on here. Just start posting new movies. Since this Trump was the original Too Far as well as Zombie Pestilence. I mean, I feel like those are just comedically too far. Whereas, like, well, I guess, Friday 13th isn't like mean spirited, hateful too far, but at the time, I mean, just that. I mean, Dawn of the Dead, kind of started the whole slasher thing, Friday the 13th and whatnot, in terms of just showing the gore like that. But I mean, even before that, Herschel Gordon Lewis and all that. Bruiser has a European feel to it. Yeah, yeah. I'd say it's definitely a weird feel to it, and definitely a weirder tone to it. John says, agree 100% about George being too focused on his narratives, that the other elements suffered. Where in the past, George narrative was underneath the film and was there if you were paying attention. Yeah, and I think that's a big issue with a lot of movies these days. I think a lot of movies are heavy on, their fucking message and just and everything else just goes to the wayside. And I think that's what ruins a lot of movies, especially these days. But yeah, I totally agree with that. Rob says I totally agree about Bruiser. People were expecting someone different, like a slasher, and it wasn't promoted well. I'm definitely going to rewatch with new eyes. I feel bad. He was so proud of it, and wasn't well received. Yeah, I mean, he was probably used to. I mean, that happened a lot. I mean, he was very proud of Night Riders. Yeah, he said that's one of his favorite movies he ever made, but nobody saw it. Nobody cared about it. But people went back years later. I probably, when it came out on DVD is when I heard because it was always like, oh, that's the non-horror movie that George made. Yeah, it's fine. It's just then you finally watch it and you're like, wow, this is actually a really fucking great movie. Like, but yeah, I just really think that kind of like if Bruiser was better received and people were like, oh, well, this is George is back, I feel like his career would have gone a different. Like if Bruiser really made some, I'm not talking about a huge blockbuster or anything. It's just not that type of movie. But if it was somewhat remotely successful, I think we would have still gotten Land of the Dead. I'm sure, or some zombie movie. He would have made that zombie because that was the movie that George has been wanting to make since the '90s. So that movie was getting made. I just think that after that, we would have probably gotten some other stuff. But the fact that Land of the Dead was kind of the movie that everybody wanted to make because Shaun of the Dead was popular, a big success. The Dawn remake was a big success. So zombies were kind of hot again, and there was the guy that that invented it all, like trying to make this movie. They finally gave him a shot, and Land of the Dead was not a huge success by any means, but I mean, it was made for a fairly small budget in comparison to a lot of the other movies from that time, and it made its budget back and a little maybe a little on top. It was big on home video. I think it was a big seller on home video. So George immediately got the money. They were like, "Oh, make another one of those." So George immediately got however much to make Diary of the Dead. Then Diary came out. It was a huge success, especially on home video. I mean, it was a big seller on home video because it came out. I think Diary came out, if I remember correctly, Diary came out on home video the exact same day as the that Night of the Living Dead DVD version, if I remember correctly. 'Cause I feel like I remember buying both at the exact same time. I may be mistaken, but I feel like it's right around that same exact time. I do think they came out at the exact same time. Um, and of course, that night release was one that everybody was looking forward to for quite a while because there was a new documentary and all kinds of new features and stuff on it. So, but Diary was a big, very successful seller. So they said, "Here's some more money, make another one of those." So George's like, "Oh fuck, I got to make another goddamn zombie movie. All right, I guess I'll do a zombie western, I guess, because I'd like to make a western. Fuck it, let's do it." And made Survival of the Dead, and that one was not a big success. And that's when they were like, "Okay, you're burned out, you're done," and they wouldn't let him do anything else after that. He was always working, trying to get other stuff made, trying to get other things done. Um, he just couldn't get anything else off the ground until of course he passed, which we actually just passed his 7-year anniversary of his passing in 2017. It's crazy to think it's been 7 years already, um, but yeah, that was last week, and I thought about maybe coming on here doing some kind of stream, but it's just like I was so fucking bummed that day. Like I was just like not in the mood. Like at all. I didn't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it now, but I'll mention it because it did just happen. But yeah, 7 years. It's pretty crazy. Um, Seth wants to know, when you mentioned new info for Queens of the Dead. Curious how bad the news. It's not bad news. I mean, not that I know of. I don't even know the fucking people, but they announced some of the actresses and some of the cast members that they're getting for it. So um, nobody that I really notice. I guess one of the actors. I mean, I guess this maybe this is something we're just gonna have to start talking about. I really don't want to because I really don't give a fuck. Um, but I guess maybe it is something we're just gonna have to start talking about because it does look like it's happening. Whereas the Twilight of the Dead movie, I feel like that's the one that I was more interested in. I was like, at least they got Brad Anderson, it's got a good track record. They got a real director behind it, and I mean there are other issues with that I was just kind of skeptical on, but I haven't heard shit about that movie in a while. But this Queens of the Dead seems to be picking up steam, and of course, if you guys don't know, George's daughter Tina Romero is making her own zombie movie to, continue the legacy of her father or whatever the fuck. And I don't know, just from what I've heard and from the synopsis, and it doesn't. I'm just tired. Tired. I don't want to. After Festival of the Living Dead, after sitting through that thing, I was like, just let it be. Just let it be. Like just stop. Just let it be. That's all I ask. I'm not asking to make good movies. You know, I'm not begging you guys. Oh man, somebody make another good Romero movie. Like no, Romero's dead. Uh, there's no more Romero movies being made. Um, Even if it is his daughter, and God bless her, like I said, she seems like the sweetest, nicest person in the freaking world. But just let it be. But I mean, what the hell? I mean, maybe some kid somewhere will see that movie and be like, "Wow, this is awesome. What else is there?" And they look up Tina Romero, and then they see, "Oh, who's George Romero?" And then it leads them down the rabbit hole and into discovering, George's work. Like that's really the most you can hope for with something like this. I don't mean to be, negative about it, but I'm just being honest. Just like it's not going to be good. It might be. I don't know. It might be good, but I'm telling you, it's probably not. Anyway, I told you I didn't really want to talk about it. Damn it, Synth. Anyway, let's move on. Mayor says, imagine if Bruiser had been successful, we'd have gotten Bruiser 2 Electric. That's a good trend. That got me in a better mood after talking about Queen. Bruiser 2 Electric Boogaloo. Hell yeah. No, I don't think we would have gotten a Bruiser 2, but there were some other scripts and ideas that he was working on that I would have been interested in checking out and seeing at some point. Okay, Rob, definitely curious about Queen of the Dead. Better be good because it's a tribute to his legacy, but with her own spin. Well, I just gave you my whole feeling on that. I don't know how far behind I am on the comments here. I think I'm fairly close being caught up, but I don't know. Maybe it will be. Like I hope it is. Like hopefully, like the what do they say? The nut doesn't fall too far from the tree, and she can pull it together and produce something interesting and groundbreaking, and capture, like I said, captures the essence George did years ago. I just don't. I just don't have faith. I think just after watching that Festival of Living Dead shit, I was just like, it's fucking over. Like it's done. Like just let it be. The Savini Stavrakis commentary is great. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. Some great info on actors, locations. I should have watched it again before Living Dead weekend. My favorite part of that, it just feels like two friends hanging out watching a movie. They're just chain smoking and bullshitting and just laughing, having a good time. I love commentary tracks like that. Like that, there's a place definitely 100% for commentary tracks with like the Richard Rubenstein commentary track. I love that commentary track just because it's Richard talking about Dawn of the Dead and how it was made and the financing and the distribution and how all that worked, and that was awesome. But then you also love when it just sounds like a group of friends hanging out and reminiscing and enjoying the movie. And that was definitely the Savini Stavrakis commentary. The mayor says I went one step further. I skipped a region-free Blu-ray player. Just went ahead and bought bought a 4K region-free Blu-ray. Yeah, that's what I got. You can't go wrong with that. That motherfucker will literally play anything. I've yet to come across anything that it won't play, and they're not that expensive. I mean, depending on what your budget is, but I was thinking because originally that's why I didn't get one for the longest. I was like, well, fuck, those things are gonna be $400 or $500, but I mean, you can find them out there for $100, $150 maybe. I think I only paid 150 for mine, and I've had it for 2-3 years now, and I've never had an issue out of it. So who knows? Robert says Amazon is a bit confusing to me. So where can I go to get a region-free legitimate 4K player? There's a website. Hang on a second, I'll look it up for you. Actually, there's a website that specifically does region-free players and stuff like that, which where I bought it from, and I got a good price on it. And like I said, I've had mine for 3 or 4 years now, I guess. 220electronics.com, 220-electronics.com. I would look there. That's where I bought mine. And like I said, I've had no issues out of it. I recommend. I'd recommend them. I'd say that's probably I've heard quite a few people say they're probably the best option when it comes to region free players. 220electronics.com. They're not a sponsor of the channel, but I'll give them some free publicity. Just because I'm happy with the product they sold me. So hey. Now watch. I'm gonna go back and try to watch something. It's gonna fuck up and it's not gonna work anymore. The bastards got me. Anybody watch the Creep Show TV series? I've seen episodes of it. I've never watched the whole thing through. Mayor says Amazon's where you got your free. Yeah, you can get them definitely from Amazon too. But I'd say Amazon or 220 Electronics. But if Amazon is too confusing, 220 Electronics, they're trustworthy. They do good shit. Here you go. The Eugene Clark Big Daddy limited release dongle. That's what we need. Keep the dongle burning, baby. The Mayor. I fell in love with Knight Riders the first time I watched it on VHS. Yeah, I did too. That was probably the first time I cried watching a Romero film. I wanted it's like it was one of the later Romero films that I remember watching in terms of like timeline of when I first started discovering all of his movies. Night Riders was one of the last ones that I remember watching. I found the Anchor Bay. Oh, there's shit going on downstairs. I may have to hop off here in a second, but toddler rage. But yeah, when I first saw Night Riders, I fell in love with it. I was blown away just because it felt like a gathering of everybody from all of his movies up to that point. It was like the one last big hurrah for like just that 70s gang. I mean, it had, people from Don, Martin. I mean, Sweet Sal has a cameo in the movie. Anybody that knows the Sweet Sal documentary from Tony Bubba. And but yeah, the ending when Savini breaks down, I was just like, holy shit, Savini's crying. Like Tom Savini's crying. Now I'm crying. What the fuck? This movie's amazing. Love Night Riders. Robert says I couldn't see a Romero movie in the theater until Land. Me neither. I was too young. It was like a twinkle in my eye. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I saw it 3 times that weekend when it came out. I think I saw it that many times. I was trying to talk myself into loving it. I liked it. I did like it. There was a lot I liked about it. I still do. But I was just really, really just wanting to love it. I wanted it to be my dream come true, literally, because I used to dream about the next Romero zombie movie, and it was different. Is what it is. Imagine if Georgia made a dead film set in outer space. I'd rather not. Although that is an interesting concept. I don't know if there been zombie space movies out there. Anybody? See, I've seen zombie westerns. I've seen zombie. I don't know if I've ever seen a zombie space movie that I can think of off the top of my head. I mean, Night of the Creeps, I guess, has some sci, but it's not in space, so it doesn't count. But it has some sci-fi influence to it. John says, after Dawn, has George made a film that lost money? I think they all have. Once you factor home releases, overseas box office, but I'm not sure. That's a good question. That has lost money. Let's think about it. Night Riders, possibly, because I don't think that was a huge seller on home video at the time. It definitely wasn't a big hit in the theaters. But the budget on Night Riders wasn't that damn much though. Creepshow I know made money. Day definitely made its money back. I don't know. It's a good question. Survival would probably Survival. I think definitely lost money because the budget on Survival, that was probably it was definitely a bigger budget than he had on Diary. I'm pretty sure, and that didn't really have a theater run, and I don't think it was that successful on home video either. I think by that point, I feel like the zombie genre had kind of tired itself out, and it was all Walking Dead, and anything outside of that was just kind of discarded. But yeah, that's a good ass question. That's some research that I think we'll both probably be doing here later because that's a really good question. I'm not sure. Robert says George's last movie, Twilight of the Dead, cannot get made, but Queens of the Dead can. I don't understand. Yeah, that I don't know why that is. I don't know what's going on with that Twilight of the Dead. I would have loved to have that one. Actually, I have more faith in just because it was Brad Anderson, and I mean Brad has a track record of doing good work in the past. But whereas Tina Romero, she's got the Romero name, but I don't know. I don't know how competent of a filmmaker she is, but whatever. The mayor says, "Oh, I remember when I found out that George had passed away. I was watching Trainspotting 2. Got the notification about George. Was totally bummed. Never finished Trainspotting 2. Yeah, I remember. I forget where we were, but I just gotten home from somewhere, and I pull out my phone. I looked I think I was outside taking smoking as soon as we got home. Outside smoking. Looked at my phone, saw George, and I just stared at it and just smoked 2 or 3 more and just was just like trying just looking like I remember walking around the yard just kind of looking up at the stars and just kind of just trying to comprehend it, because honestly at the time it felt like the end of an era for me because my fandom, my love for George and his work really began, with my intentions of being a filmmaker someday. Like I wanted to emulate George Romero. I wanted to study him and study how he did it because I always felt like the underdog, the small town guy. Hopkinsville, Kentucky's not a big city or anything, but always wanted to just kind of pave my own way and just kind of do my own thing. And that's what George did his entire career. Was he did things his way. Paved his own road, and I don't know what other thing I'm trying to say, but so when George passed, and I was at a point in my life where that dream had just kind of gone. Like it was just kind of I was just kind of done. So I just kind of felt like, man, that's the end of the chapter. But I never would have guessed, and I owe it all really to Matt Blasey and Eric Kent, WGON Radio. When I found that podcast, and it was about a year and a half or so after George's death, and I was just driving around. I listened to podcasts while I was working at the time as a pizza delivery driver, and I just listened to podcasts. And I just ran out of shit. I was just like, I'm caught up on everything. So I just Google like George Romero podcast. Does anybody do anything about George Romero? And I found that, and I was like, oh, Blasey. I knew him from back in the day. I remember talking to him online back in the day. So I was like, oh, this is credible. Let me check this out. And I was fucking hooked. Like it just brought me back. It brought me back. Like I was like, oh shit. Like I gotta get this stuff. I start collecting this stuff again. I gotta get back in it. But yeah, I don't know. I'm just I remember that night sadly, but yeah, it's crazy that it's been 7 years already. Rob says I have to rewatch Knight Riders. Also, I skimmed through it, but didn't understand what he was going for in style. But I absolutely love most everything he made, even Diary. Well, Knight Riders is definitely longer. It's a longer movie. It's definitely different. It's something, but there's a lot. It's definitely a very personal film to George, and George was getting a lot of very personal stuff out in Knight Riders because it's really the story of, like I said, it's the story of a guy who's basically trying to stay independent and do things the way that he'd always done it, but at some point you outgrow that and you got to start bringing in money and all this. And then that's always the biggest issue in anything. It's like if like, let's say, uh, you start a YouTube channel and at first it's like, oh, I'm doing it my way. I can do whatever I want. And it's a party and I can say what I want, blah, blah, blah. But at some point, if you hit like 1 million subscribers and all of a sudden it's a completely different game and it changes. Um, I don't know. It's just, and George had a lot to say with Knight Riders, and I think that's another film that, because let me think, is that the last non-horror film George ever made? I think it was. Because I mean, if you look before Knight Rider, you had Knight Riders. There's always Vanilla's not really a horror film. Season of the Witch gets thrown in as a horror film, but if you really watch it, it's not really a horror film per se. Trying to think. The Amusement Park, if you want to throw that in there, wasn't really a horror movie. A lot of it was just more experimental, and even the Crazies. I mean, the Crazies it's definitely in the horror um, vein, but it definitely has more of a sci-fi feel to it to me. Um, but I feel like after Knight Riders, it was just one of those movies where he was so proud of it and he loved what it was and what it meant to him and what he was trying to say with it. That the fact that it wasn't a huge success and it didn't do what he wanted it to do, it kind of maybe he said, okay, maybe I'm just gonna go in this direction. And we got Creepshow, and then George just became a horror guy after that, which I think George always kind of felt bad about. Like I felt like George always kind of beat himself up. But he was like, oh, I'm just a horror guy, I can't do anything else. Um, but I think after Creepshow and the success of Dawn of the Dead, and then Creepshow comes along and it's #1 at the box office, and he's associated with Stephen King, and then he's got Day of the Dead after that, more zombies, and it's just like he just became pigeonholed as a horror guy, kind of like Carpenter. I mean, Carpenter's done stuff outside of the horror genre, as Craven has done. Cronenberg has definitely done stuff outside of the genre, but they're all kind of lumped in together as horror directors. But but yeah, rewatch Knight Riders. Back to the main point. Since his odds are that Queens will be bad, you are right. Sorry to bum you. No, I was just fucking around, man. You didn't bum me out. It is. I just. I don't know. I just don't have high hopes for it. That's all. Lyris Ghost, what's up? That's a name I remember from the past. I haven't seen her in a while. Good to see you again, man. Aren't all 4K players region free by default? Yeah, most are, but not all. We just mentioned earlier um, that sometimes you'll come across a region locked 4K for whatever reason. Mayor says, I was surprised how many people didn't recognize Savini and Zach and Miri make a porno. That's right. He has a cameo there because that was filmed in Monroeville as well. And that scene, I think it's a scene before where Seth Rogen and what's his face from The Office are going up the escalator. That was shot in the Monroeville Mall. So um, they didn't believe me when I said Savini was in it. Yeah. That was a big. I remember seeing it in the theater and seeing Savini pop up on screen. I was like, oh, this movie's awesome. Then you got the Monroeville zombie hockey team. I'm like, this is fucking perfect. Robert says you dedicate your channel to George Romero, and yet you've never seen the Creepshow TV series. What the hell? I mean, George had nothing to do with the Creepshow TV series. That's the thing. Like, that's really more of a Nicotero thing, which I love Nicotero too. Don't get me wrong, but yeah, George didn't have anything to do with that fucking TV series. I mean, there's a lot of the episodes. I will say this: a lot of the episodes that pull from George's work or pay homage to George in some way. Those are the ones I do out of my way to check out. But I'm just, like I said in the past, I'm just not a big TV guy. It's hard for me to get into a TV series, like even like the original Tales from the Dark Side series. That's one I still need to go back and finish because it's just I can't. Tales from the Crypt, same thing. Like, I don't know. It's just it's a lot to get there. Unless a show comes along like Sopranos or Breaking Bad or something like that just hook me, and I just gotta watch them all just because I'm carried through the story throughout the overarching thing. It's hard for me to really dedicate my time to watching all of it. I love you too, by the way. Stuka says, does anyone have the Dawn comics? I know some people that have. I don't actually, though. That's one thing I never picked up for those or the comics that came out. They go for pretty good price now, actually. Brett says, what do you think of Night of the Animated Day? I think I brought up that earlier. If anything else were made like this, what would you want it to be, or should it stop? I've imagined George's early Dawn of the Dead script coming to animated life. That would actually be interesting. I'd be interested in seeing that if somebody could bring that. Well, there's more of a treatment, but it's kind of a script, whatever you want to call it. If you could bring that to life somehow with AI, which I think that's where we're going to head in 10, 15 years anyway, is that you can just put this script into AI and then it will bring it to life, and you can, they'll make a movie out of it. And you can cast whoever you want. You can cast Charlton Heston to play Flyboy, or Steven, as he's called in that script. I don't think they called him Flyboy in that script because it's just Steven and Fran. There's no Peter, there's no Roger. That might be one positive of AI. One day we'll be able to do something like that and actually see that version. But I haven't seen Night of the Animated Dead. I was mentioning that earlier. I mean, I don't really have thoughts on it. I haven't heard anything good about it. But if anything else were made like this, what would you want it to be, or should it stop? I mean, you can always do things in this realm, and if it's done correctly, but it's hard to really think off the top of my head of what that could be. I'll say this, and this would be like a dream project for me if I were ever to get a budget, and if I ever won the lottery and I wanted to remake a movie, I'd love to see a remake of Martin. And I love Martin. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying this movie needs to be remade or anything, but I would love to see a modern interpretation of that story, because I think there's a lot of meat on that bone that you could that really is relevant today in terms of well, I don't want to get too political or anything, but in terms of like identity crisis and delusion and just the way that we as a people can delude ourselves and believe. I don't know, it's hard to I have ideas in my head of what I would want to do, what I would want to see, but I mean, I wouldn't want to see somebody try to recreate John Amplis's performance or Lincoln Meisel's performance or anything like that, but take the concept and maybe do something with it modern. I'm not, like I said, I think there's something there that would really play well today, if done correctly. Um, okay, speak Ghosts of Mars. Would that be considered a zombies in space movie? Martian Gothic was a zombie game with a decent plot. Haven't heard of that. What do you guys think? Ghost of Mars, does that count? Horror movies that go to space in later episodes all get much worse. It's kind of a joke at this point. It's like, oh, at this point, what else can we do with it? Well, let's shoot them into space, and they literally do that. But yeah, that's a good point. Although I see a lot of people putting over Jason X these days. I don't know what it's about. Robert says, I look forward to seeing Survival. Didn't come to my city. So yeah, I don't, I think it only played like New York, Los Angeles, maybe limited engagement. And then it was pretty much straight to DVD or Blu-ray or whatever at the time. Since as we discussed, Night Riders in the theater early 80s before I knew the name Romero, and I loved it. Yeah, I think it's a movie that if you really watch, again, I think it kind of suffers kind of in the same way that Bruiser suffers. Is like when Bruiser came out, people were thinking, "Oh my God, the guy that made Dawn of the Dead, Night of the Living Dead's making another movie." And I think the same thing. It's like people are like, "Oh my God, the guy that made Dawn of the Dead's making this new movie. Let's watch it." And I think a lot of people at the time just went in and saw this weird movie where Ed Harris is whipping himself butt ass naked in a pond with reeds and then riding motorcycles around dressed as a fucking king. And people were like, well, what the fuck is this? And nobody knew who Ed Harris was at the time. So it wasn't even like they had a name actor in it that anybody cared about. But going back and looking at it now with, like I said, the same way that I hope people go back and revisit Bruiser with fresh eyes and a different hindsight and all that, people like Knight Rider. I hear a lot of people love Knight Riders now. It's still not as seen as a lot of George's other stuff, but the people that have seen it, I've never heard anybody say, "Oh, I saw Knight Riders and it sucked." Yeah, so I'm hoping the same thing will kind of happen with Bruiser. That's kind of my hope for it, at least. Mayor says, speaking of Matt Blasey, did you hear about the commentary debacle on the new Blair Witch? Yeah. Blu-ray announcement. Yeah, I forget the company that's doing it, but they're doing like a Blu-ray box set, or is it a Blu-ray or 4K? I can't remember, but it's a Blair Witch box set with the parts 1 and 2, and it has it's listed in the features an audio commentary with Matt Blasey, and Blasey posted on Facebook. It's like, I don't know what this is. I haven't recorded an audio commentary track. But yeah, it's pretty funny. But I think they're getting that all worked out. But I do know that he's working on something for a U.S. release as well. He also may be involved in the U.S. release of Bruiser too, just to bring it all full circle. So, which Mr. Bruiser is Matt Blasey is Mr. Bruiser. Like he's the biggest Bruiser fan you'll ever meet. Probably loves that movie. So I'm glad I'll be super happy if he has some involvement in the U.S. release. Since his horror directors can make non-horror, but it rarely goes the other way. George had a knack. Yeah. You're saying horror directors can make non-horror, but it rarely goes the other way. So non-horror director. Well, yeah, you're right. Actually, I'm thinking about it. Creepshow TV series is fine, but not crazy good. I mean, I've enjoyed some of the episodes. They're fun. But yeah, like I said, good Lord. I'm trying to adjust this mic. It feels a little off. Russ says, I know he didn't. That's not my point, though. Nostalgia. Let's go, Robert. Me and you, let's fight. Let's fight. Let's do it. Nah, I wouldn't fight you after you buttered me up earlier. You're always good in my book, man. Talk shit all you want. Since as you could make animated Night of the Living Dead in Sora right now, quality would be suspect. The animated Dead movie is bad, and I'm a 3D animation maker and junkie. Yeah, I've heard the animation's really terrible on that thing. So, Stuka says, "How about an AI? It's Always Sunny cast in 1978." I'm telling you, you'll be able to do it. You'll be able to do that one day. Um, I'm telling you, if you one of these days with AI, you'll be able to just put your own screenplay in. You can say, okay, I need it to have this mood. I need it to have. I want it cast this way, and you can pick any actor from history ever. And be like, I want Cary Grant to play Flyboy, and I want you know. Fucking whoever to play Peter. You know what I'm saying? Like you could just pick anybody from throughout history and just create your own movie, and then we'll be so segmented off into our own little burrows of like fucking Wall-E or something, where we're all just watching our own movies at all times that we don't connect with anybody else. We're just like, I'm watching my movie, you watch your movie, and that's the dark dystopian future that I see AI bringing to us. It does sound kind of fun, so I mean, I don't know. We'll see. But I was gonna click. Since Ghost Mars is more possession. IIRC. What the hell does that mean? I'm old. IIRC. 1911 Guitar agreed Ghost Mars is more possession. Upon revisiting Ghost Mars, it's a better crafted movie than I remembered. The soundtrack is badass too. Yeah, that's one movie that I remember going to the theater to see when it came out, and then never had any urge to go back and rewatch it. And I don't remember much about it. Um, I just remember when it came out, it was like, oh, a new John Carpenter movie, and then leaving the theater, I was probably not paying too close attention at the time, either, to be honest with you. So that's why I need to go back and rewatch. Is it better? Is it better than The Ward? Is Ghost of Mars better than The Ward with old Mamie Gummer? I don't know. Oh, Mamie Gummer and Amber Turd. I don't know if I'm gonna watch that anytime soon, but I had to get it. Just complete the collection. Mayor says I'm running the space station Frankenstein. Okay, and I want to know what the fuck you're doing with my time. There you go. A day that I remake in space. May it never. I mean, that's one you could probably set in space, because it's all enclosed, kind of like The Thing or something. It's all in the same enclosed area. So you could honestly set Day of the Dead on a spaceship. And I think it would work. That's not a bad idea, actually. I know you're making a joke, but that actually might. Not to give anybody any ideas, but that would probably be the one Romero film that would work in space. Because I mean, if you think Night of the Living Dead, it's in a house, but there's the thread is on the outside trying to get in, so you really couldn't have that. Um, yeah, I don't know. That kind of works. Oh, if I recall correctly. See, you're too cool for school for me, Synth. You're using all these, uh, whatever you call them, shorthand that the kids are using these days. Bruce says, I think Ghost Mars is very entertaining, much better than The Ward. Yeah, I think that because from what I remember, The Ward, like I saw about half of it and I turned it off originally, so I've never seen it all through, but that was kind of the thing. It was just like, man, this is just not, and it just didn't feel like a Carpenter movie at all. Did not feel like a John Carpenter movie at all. And since says I only watched Ghost for Carpenter and Henstridge, only saw once, but left bad taste. Ice Cube was great. I forgot Ice Cube's in that, but perhaps I'll rewatch. Yeah, that's one I might rewatch if I don't know if I come across it on Blu-ray or something at some point. But yeah, it's been fun, guys. I appreciate everybody hopping in. It's been a fun conversation. I'm a little tired. I need to smoke, and it's Monday. I had a busy weekend. I was I was in Indianapolis yesterday for the Brickyard 400. So yeah, caught a lot of sun. Got blasted in the ears by about 40 stock cars going 200 miles an hour. But it was great. It was a great time. So I had a long trip back. Got back a little late last night. Got up early this morning, go back to work, and here we are. But always fun to hop on here. Next week, let's see, what do I got coming up? So scheduled, hopefully, still rolling with it. August the 4th, I believe. It's the Sunday, the first Sunday in August. Planning on having Larry back on, Lawrence DeVinson. We're gonna do a Collecting the Dead stream with Larry, and that'll be worth tuning in for. You guys got to see what this guy has. You will be blown away. So do not miss that one on August 4th. The next weekend, I think that I will. I don't know. We'll see. I still have that the conversation I had with Synth with the fixed audio. Probably going to put that up by this weekend some point. So you guys stay tuned and stay scared for that. It should be good times. Nathan B, what's up, man? Good to see you stopping in here for the end. Ghost Mars bad movie. Enough Carpenter isms that I find a guilty pleasure. Okay, that's a fair assessment, I think. Carpenter's probably too stoned when he made the ward. That's probably true. Seth, good to see you as always, my man. Glad you stopped in. Larry, looking forward to a couple weeks from now. See what you got. Just a small portion of what you got in your collection. Bonnie, thank you for stopping. Good to see you here again. Sean, as always, good to see you, my man. Hope Braddock and Pennsylvania area are treating you well. But yeah, hope everybody have a great rest of the night, great rest of the week. Like this video. I never do this, but we'll do it at the end here. Like the video, hit the subscribe button. There's a notifications bell too, I found out about. I've only been doing this for a year and a half, and I just found out there's a notifications bell. If you hit that, it'll notify you when I go live or if I post anything. So hit that as well. I don't know. But appreciate it, guys. Have a great rest of the night. And as always, stay scared.